Greetings, fellow cinephiles. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And welcome to the Ex Post Facto, where we dig deep into the career of one of cinema's great modern auteurs. Though he's well known for a certain bat, he has plenty of other tricks up his sleeve, from backwards narratives to theatrical sleights of hand, from layers of dream logic to a triptych of time.
Christopher Nolan has become one of the most skilled directors this side of Dunkirk. And this month, we celebrate his most original achievements. So start spinning that top. It's time for Nolan-Vember.
Womp! Womp! All right, Dragon, we have reached the end of season 1 of Nolan-Vember. This is probably season 1 of 2 for now, limited series, but still, we'll be back next year. Still plenty of other Nolan films to talk about. You know, we still got Interstellar waiting in the wings. We've got the new one coming out in 2020 that will be part of Nolan-Vember next year, I imagine. We've got Insomnia. Anything else we're missing in there?
Well, I mean, there's Following, of course, but
Following, yes, of course. So we've definitely got another season lined up for Nolan-Vember, but in the meantime, Dragon, basically, folks, there's been an arc going on this season with what is my favorite Nolan movie. We started way back with Dunkirk, which Dragon, I love Dunkirk. I really do. You know how much I love Dunkirk.
We started with Memento, technically.
Well, I know we started. I'm just saying this arc
right.
of like what my favorite Nolan movie is. Like, so Dunkirk had basically two competitors for what my favorite Nolan movie was going to be, which is The Prestige, which I was basically going into with fresh eyes because I hadn't watched that movie since I was basically a young lad, maybe like a 15-year-old. Didn't really get it at the time, so I was basically approaching it like from a new set of eyes, And that movie, it was great. It was really, I really enjoyed revisiting The Prestige. Only thing is, there's a little bit of there's a couple like soap opera elements to it. There's it doesn't weigh the film down at all. It's just kind of like tipping the scales. Like the Prestige and Inception were the two main competitors. Inception I hadn't seen in a long time, but I remember it blowing me away back in the day. I rewatched it over and over to the point where it kind of wore on me. I kind of wore it out. And so I haven't revisited this film in years, simply because when I first saw it, and I'll roll this into my thesis statement, when I first saw this movie, it absolutely blew me away. I mean, this is just Dragon, like top tier. Like I always tote The Social Network as being one of my all-time favorite films in the 2010s, but this is right up there too, man. Like I honestly like you and I, like, we don't even talk about this movie enough in terms of like how really just awesome it is. And Dragon, I gotta say, revisiting it, I love me some Dunkirk. Dunkirk is probably solidly my number 2 favorite Christopher Nolan film. And hey, Silver ain't bad. But Dragon, Inception is straight up Christopher Nolan's magnum opus. I mean, it's to the point where I don't even know if it's possible for him to make anything better than this.
All right.
This movie is, I don't know, like from top to bottom, it's just, it's incredible. I don't know. I have a lot to say about it. Let's just jump into it. What's your kind of thesis on it?
Well, of course, Inception came out. The big buzz of it all was, of course, this is Nolan post Dark Knight. Of course, everyone's like frothing at the mouth for, oh boy, Nolan's next movie. It's got to be the third Batman movie, right? It's got to be Batman 3. And of course, it was at a time where he had not. They gave Nolan kind of a wide berth on whenever he wanted to do the next Batman movie, so long as he delivered. So, point being, no one knew what was coming next from Nolan. So, of course, they announced Inception. It was like, okay, man, they have like the mind-bending trailer and like, oh god, what the heck is this movie? And it's very...
The trailer like didn't mention at all that it was a dream thing, right?
Not particularly. No, people had like to read into like, what is this? And like, okay, it's a dream thing. basically people, they had the title, they had Inception, which basically is a dream related topic, so people had to,
Oh,
they anyway. So so basically, let me put it this way: when it comes to Inception, I like to paraphrase Ed Wood in that, this is the one they'll remember me for. Then in this case, this is the one they'll remember Nolan for.
I mean, I really do think so. I mean, like I said, I don't mean to sound like bleak when I say I don't think he can make a better movie than this. I mean, like I said, I love Dunkirk. Dunkirk is one of my favorite movies of the 2010s. Like Nolan basically like bookends this decade with some of my favorite movies with Dunkirk and with Inception. But I don't know, man. This is just a towering achievement. It really is.
Yeah. And point is, this, at least, so far, I mean, this and Memento are probably going to be the ones in the history books of cinema so far, as we've seen that, these are like Nolan's signature movies. Now, to be fair, the Dark Knight trilogy, those are going to be lumped into Batman's cinematic journey. As great as they are, of course, as much as Nolan revolutionized them, Batman's going to keep on going and keep falling in other directors' hands. Nolan's going to probably still be the most impressive until we see what Matt Reeves does. I mean, again, fingers crossed, no guarantees there. Mm-hmm. But my point is, I mean, Nolan, he definitely has a chapter in the history of Batman, but I can't say like that's like Christopher Nolan's like his signature movie. I can't say like that's the Nolan's done many things for the industry. Each genre he's kind of taken on. I think the two that have left the biggest marks have probably been Memento and kind of the first place of putting his name on the map and like kind of shaking the industry up. But then, of course, the movie that is basically Nolan becomes like a single name outside of the guy who directed the Batman movies with Inception. Inception is like that's Nolan as a brand that gets other things where they're sold on Nolan's name, like Dunkirk. I mean, this film it's an ambitious heist movie that allows Nolan yet again to push the genre as he's done with so many others, and also raise the bar. It's kind of it's Nolan's take on a Kubrickian heist movie. That's pretty much it.
All right, 60-second background, Dragon, go.
All right. So after Insomnia, Nolan comes up with the dream-stealing premise. Initially, as a horror movie, more Kubrick than Elm Street, I'm sure, in what he was thinking there. Of course, Matrix and Memento, this is kind of entices Nolan with the concept of like questioning reality, which we saw all throughout Memento. It's like, what is real? Who can I trust? That sort of angle, and that kind of captured Nolan's eye. So he refined the concept into a heist movie, and kind of that was in making it a heist movie, you're able to play a lot more with like what you can do with lucid dreaming, which obviously is a huge part of Inception. So around 2001, he presents this to Warner Brothers, but unfortunately, as you see in the final product of the movie, really large scale. We do a lot of stuff. We literally lump buildings on top of other buildings, really large scale. So they tell him, okay, you need more experience under your belt. Again, this is like Nolan, like after Insomnia, it's like roughly three movies under his belt. So again, still pretty green. He did Memento, and they would give him some big actors in Insomnia. Let's let him get some more clout. So Dark Knight happens. Of course, Dark Knight, at this point, Nolan can write his own ticket for any movie he wants. Has all the
Prestige ain't nothing either.
No. Prestige, again, Prestige is like, okay, this guy, we know this guy can make a good...
All three of those were kind of like great building blocks in his career. Like that was like kind of like a Nolan trilogy unto itself.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. That gives him the experience. That gives him the experience and the clout that he needed, and that basically he gets the experience with the Prestige and he kind of puts in these kind of his franchising kind of chips with Batman Begins, and of course the Dark Knight kind of literally it's like, okay, Nolan, whatever you want to do next, you got it, whatever you want. Just so please do a third Batman movie, do whatever you want. And so he dedicates 6 months to back to Inception, which again has been developing for roughly like 9 to 10 years at this point, like on and off again. Has always been in his back pocket. So he kind of cracks, okay, I'm finally going to do this movie now. I have like some free time open. He cracks the code on. He had 2 issues in the story, and the 2 main issues were kind of the emotional anchor to the story, which of course we see through the Cobb character in this movie, and the whole co-dreaming element for the heist. As in everybody shares a dream. The whole dream sharing of it all. That's the other kind of like, how can I make an interesting heist with a guy who falls asleep? Or in this case, okay, making multiple people who are in on the heist. And big last thing, Nolan very famously shot down doing 3D for this movie. He stuck with 35 millimeter. He was all for like, of course, with all the movies you could have done 3D with, Inception surely would be like, come on, let's do some 3D. He says, no, it's kind of, I'm not. That's too gimmicky.
3D Joseph Gordon-Levitt floating hallways.
Exactly. So Nolan stuck to his guns, and believe it or not, just the last little bit of hype going into the movie here. This movie was not done in IMAX. for a very specific reason, very literalized yet awesome reason. The movie, it was too heavy for IMAX. In that, IMAX cameras are very heavy, and basically to do all the visual stuff you did in this movie, you would have to use IMAX through a lot of it. And shooting this movie was not quite easy in terms of your location scouting. Bear in mind, this is before he gets like, let's just strap an IMAX camera onto a plane and actually fly with actors. And it's before that point, mind you, but still a little too ambitious for its time. So no IMAX for literally, it was too heavy for the movie. IMAX could not handle this movie. All right.
So, in other words, Dragon, this movie broke
new ground.
It really did. It really did.
That it did. Okay.
Okay, so let's folks get your tops ready and start spinning them for the next 2.5 hours. Go ahead and get your copy of the movie if you want to watch along with us. But trust me, with this, Dragon, I feel like with this movie in particular, like there's going to be so much conversation. There's so much to break down with this one. I really don't think you're going to need to watch along with us. But if you feel so inclined, go ahead and get your copy of the movie. Get your timestamp to timestamp 00. I will count up, and then I will count up to 3. 1, 2, 3, go. Like Lethal Weapon style. 1, 2, 3, go.
Lethal Weapon 2. I keep forgetting. Like it's really in 2 that they do that. So on like 1, 2, 3. When you hear go, that's when you hit the button from him when he says.
Yeah. So when I say the word go, then we all go. All right. You ready, Dragon?
I'm ready.
Okay, folks. Inception in 1, 2, 3, go! All right. So, of course, right off the bat, we're hit with Hans Zimmer's just epic, iconic score. Epic, iconic, 2 words that were used too much in this decade. I apologize. But no, Hans Zimmer in general, just this score just kind of like defined the 2000s in a lot of ways with how film scores, it really kind of treaded new territory for how atmospheric and dark film scores could get.
You'll notice Syncope. Syncope, actually, I didn't know this. That's Nolan's personal production company, which is why the whole maze gimmick and the logo for what we're using here and everything. It's very very Nolan based. He loves mazes, that Nolan. So it's that's where it comes from. Syncope.
Okay, so the first time I saw this movie with the beach and everything, I had no idea what was going on at all. I was just completely lost right from the get-go. I was like, what is this? Why are we at this palace? Who is this guy? Dragon, rewatching this movie from a second watch onwards, all this stuff on the beach and everything, it's just so cool how it all wraps around into itself. It might be a flaw that viewers on first watch are just lost, but then again, it kind of relates to the dream logic of, dreams start abruptly. Dreams start like where it's like you don't even know how you got there.
Oh yeah. Also, with Cobb,
you into it. Go ahead. Sorry.
So also with Cobb washing up on the beach, right off the bat, you have basically what the focus of the movie is. What Cobb's main desire is. He wants the reunion with his kids, and of course the beach has the whole limbo of it all. The beach is very significant, and all of that kind of circles back later.
Mm-hmm.
We put the mystery in the play here, of course, also in the set design too, because this set's literally what we're about to jump to as well. And of course, kind of the mystery of who is this old man across the table, and it's very it's a solid. I think it's a solid mystery setup too. It's like you want to know what's going to happen. It's like, okay, I'm hooked for the movie. How the heck do we get here?
Yeah, just the whole idea, like, that Saito is just so lost in the dream state that he's been there for decades and he's grown old, and it's like, how did we lose him? What went wrong? It's Dragon, dare I say, it's kind of like a Breaking Bad setup. Like, it's kind of like, Vince Gilligan plants the rocket launcher in Walter White's truck, and it's going to go off by the end of the season.
Yes. Also, So also, of course, with Ken Watanabe, a fantastic actor. And basically, this was kind of Nolan's apology to underutilizing him in Batman Begins. And he wanted to give Watanabe a role he deserved, and that's kind of what we do with Saito here. And of course, I love this character Watanabe plays. Might be my favorite Ken Watanabe role, if I'm being frank. I love this. I love the dynamic he has with Cobb, and as we develop it through the movie and everything here. So I mean, this is all great.
Yeah, Saito is one of my favorite characters in the Nolan verse, just in general. I mean, he really I mean, especially for someone who's not a main character in the story and really is kind of like not necessarily an antagonist, but kind of like he's not, he's a big corporate businessman, he could be written as a really Diane, but he's not at all. That's kind of like the tightrope that Nolan walks with Saito's character, is that he's the businessman who you legitimately see is he is out for his own interest, but by the same point, a lot of his motivations do kind of go towards the greater good.
Yes. So I always, honestly, one of my favorite segments of the movie is the opening here. I love the status quo of seeing a heist in action. I love that, especially kind of this stage of this level of the dream we're in right now with Saito. And I just love, our guys, basically what they're doing right now is they're trying to turn the mark as a protection. Basically, they're doing the old extractor ploy that we kind of do a little bit later on. We get to see it again, almost successful here. And of course, what we do right now with kind of these intercuts of the watch and everything. Nolan has a constant obsession. His very Kubrickian obsession is time. The man loves time and what you can do with time and the editing and so on and so forth. Of course, time. There's like a big section. The main theme of the movie from Hans Zimmer is called time. So you definitely get to see a lot of that in play, and how like we have these good close-ups of the watch and everything. And of course, how we
theme, the womps are time.
Mm-hmm, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It all like that's where the womps. Yeah, exactly. So again, I love like each level of the dream. We have some fun time stuff that we do there, which we'll get to a little later on. So all that's just, and of course, a lot of our slow mo kind of a high speed camera stuff here. Where we kind of slow the explosions and everything. And again, we're even seeing the reverberations from what we will learn will be the one dream having a layer into the other dream that you're in.
Mm-hmm. Dragon, I want to. What's your thoughts on lucid dreaming, really quick, just to kind of get the conversation rolling in that direction?
Lucid dreaming. It sounds fascinating. I don't think I've ever done it right, but it's a fascinating concept.
Do you mind if I share? I won't go on a tangent or anything, but do you mind how I do it?
Sure, yeah.
Well, let's set up Mal first, because.
All right, so yes, we have Marion.
I do want to tell some of my lucid dreaming stories throughout the content.
Save it when we get to the lucid dreaming stuff, if you can.
All right.
We have Mal here. So Mal, of course, she has a great femme fatale vibe, very, very kind of noir 40s kind of dynamic going on with her. Basically, if given more time, this absolutely shows you what he could have done with Talia al Ghul. Because Marion Cotillard, especially with this role, she could have been a great Talia. Unfortunately, we need more time. We need time, like we have in this movie, to develop that.
I will say that this is maybe the most scary Nolan villain out of all of them. Even the Joker.
I wouldn't go that far, but she's definitely up there.
Oh man, I think she's fucking terrifying. I mean, just what she can do and how brutal she is, and how she's just gonna stop at nothing. I don't know. The Joker the thing about the Joker is he's scary, yes, but there's also totally an element of comedy to the Joker. With Mal, there's no comedy. You replace the comedy in Mal with tragedy. It's just tragedy and scary.
Since you mentioned the Joker, I should mention that painting in there they were talking about, the Francis Bacon painting. It's kind of a double reference to the Joker. See, in '89, the painting the Joker did not want destroyed by Bob, that was a Francis Bacon painting. And in Heath Ledger's Joker journal, he had a couple paintings from Francis Bacon. So it's kind of a Joker signature, the works of Francis Bacon.
Christopher Nolan's cinematic universe, I'm telling you.
No, but seriously, speaking of, again, Christopher Nolan stuff. So Christopher Nolan, deep down, he always wants to make a Bond movie. And this movie is kind of his audition for, this was his audition for Skyfall. And unfortunately, he didn't get it. I like how Skyfall turned out, mind you, but I'm saying this is.
And I wonder what's up with that. I wonder if he ever will get it.
Because there's two very big Bond note. Obviously, with the score, there's a very Bondian kind of element to the score when we get to my favorite bit of score in the whole movie soon. But it's also, of course, when we do the skiing stuff later on, it's a huge Bond reference. So right now,
Oh yeah,
okay, so this is my favorite. Honestly, this is my favorite sequence in the whole movie. Basically, the whole dreams collapsing segment is my favorite section of the whole entire film, because I love everything we do here. It feels very it's espionage meets noir in the best way. Again, we have our femme fatale here, who's kind of screwing things up. We have the double cross, like we double cross the fat man from the Maltese Falcon and something like that. It's everything's just so well composed, like the sliding of the gun and the whole, like you were close to unraveling, but our guy has a trick up his sleeve. Just how the score starts once we reveal that we're actually in a dream. It's like everything in this section to me is just so perfectly composed and then edited by Lee Smith. I love everything about this sequence. And again, dream is collapsing. Just that theme is the catchiest.
Okay, really quick. Yeah, the dream is collapsing for sure. But this right here with Mal and the pain thing, where she shoots Arthur in the knee instead of killing him. Dragon, this is a movie of rules, and as you know, Dragon, I'm a man who loves rules in fiction when they're really done well.
Oh yeah,
movie is like porn in that regard.
That's what I'm talking about. I love that table slide and shooting him in the head right there.
I don't know. I love the idea that you can weaponize pain in the dream universe. You can't kill, because killing, at this stage in the game, of course, the killing thing is going to have a deeper ramification later on in the movie. But for this stage, killing is basically just kind of like a game over and you wake up. But pain, man, you experience pain, and you remember that shit. You go through it. It's all in the mind.
Here's the scariest Maul shot for me right here. One of my favorite shots in the movie with Maul here, and she's walking away from Sato here as he looks at the documents here. I love that she's kind of like the Cobb's ghost here in the scene. Just ruined everything. She's kind of like walking in an utter ruin with complete confidence, just like kind of smirking at it. It's like that shot here when she's kind of walking with everything collapsing around her. With the whole, again, my favorite, to me, that's the most chilling yet awesome shot of Maul in the whole movie, right here. Just kind of walking forward, everything is kind of collapsing behind her, yet satisfied, and just kind of almost as if she can see Cobb. Again, almost as if she can sense Cobb. Like, what is he gonna do now? It's like, I love it. So yeah, this is so Johnny Marr did the guitar stuff for this movie. He did like all the kind of the guitar stuff that got worked into the score, especially during kind of our exciting kind of chase music. And this is easily my favorite theme Hans Zimmer's ever done right now. This one.
So I will say that collapsing buildings are definitely a part of lucid dreaming that I have experienced.
Okay.
It's definitely like kind of like a thematic thing of, when you realize that you're in a dream, that kind of stuff will start to happen. And so, Dragon, you can imagine me, like I've already, like, at the point of this movie when I was already into lucid dreaming for a number of years by the time this movie came out. So this movie, man, it just blew my mind wide open, especially because of how accurate everything feels. This movie definitely is, like, in spite of all the heist and James Bond elements to it, it's the movie that to me really captures the feeling of actually being in a dream more than any other movie for me, especially in some of the sequences and the way that things are broken down.
Now, it's funny you mention that, because Harvard, actually, some of the experts at Harvard, they confirmed that what happened to Cobb just now, when the water filled the place, and that, by the way, the location literally was like, had these water cannons towards the roof of the place. So that place is actually flooded. No CG. There's very few. Obviously, when we get to Limbo, there's a lot of CG, but before that point, this movie is as practical as you could possibly do a movie about dreams. And when he's woken up by the water there, this whole phenomenon of, like, if you were like dunked in the tub of water, you would be flooded in the dream. That is 100%. That's verified by the experts at Harvard, apparently.
Oh yeah. I mean, kind of
basically that and how the kick works.
While we're on the subject of things that are really accurate, the whole idea of, like, if you go to sleep with a full bladder, odds are it's going to be raining or water's going to be involved in some way.
Essentially, all the correlation stuff's pretty on the money in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get everything right. They get a large portion of things. They get a decent amount of things right in this movie.
Yeah.
So again, I love the saying we're playing with time yet again here. I love the that whole ticking clock notion though. Basically, when we had the dream collapsing, when the subject is made aware that he's in a dream, things begin to collapse as well as like now you're on like a new time frame. I love that idea. Of
Oh yeah,
course, a lot of
Nolan's just wait with the ticking clocks. Just you wait.
oh, yes. Of course, big Tokyo payoff for the Dark Knight here is that it gave us this fun little bullet train sequence.
Right.
Just scouting, I was having a good time there. Putting Bruce Wayne's little sunglasses, just kind of like scouting out the building in the Dark Knight. Oh, to be fair, it's more Hong Kong, so never mind. Forget what I'm saying. Point being, Nolan was just going globetrotting. You got a little idea. Anyway.
Do you want to start breaking down our main characters here, like Cobb and Arthur?
Sure, sure. Well, real quick, Nam del Regretta. So the song that plays when they wake up, it actually translates in French to, I believe, no regrets, and it's also the source of the womps too. It's like that, and the whole like when we have that built into the time theme, the womp, when it triggers the womps.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but yeah, let's talk about so Cobb, of course, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. So Nolan's been wanting to work with DiCaprio for many years, and DiCaprio finally got a project that kind of caught DiCaprio's eye with this movie.
DiCaprio just like fits like a glove into Nolan's style. I'm surprised he's only done one movie with Nolan.
I love that we got Joseph Gordon-Levitt in this movie, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I think he's so good in this movie. It's not a big role, but it's just right. It's great. Basically, what Nolan did, I found out what Nolan did in the movie is that each of the characters he basically related, kind of like he did with. Kind of like what he was doing with The Prestige. It's kind of a graduation from The Prestige where there is a parallel to filmmaking. In this case, everyone's role within the heist parallels an element of filmmaking. According to Nolan, some interview he did, he was trying to work that in there. Where like Cobb's the director. Also, there's somewhat of a resemblance to Nolan. Some might point out, the blonde hair and everything, especially all the nice suits and everything. Nolan is known for wearing a nice suit. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he's the producer. That's the idea. You have the director, you have the producer. When we get the Eames, I'll point out the
guy that's like kind of getting stuff done for the man who has the vision.
Exactly.
Kind of keeping him with the vision in check.
And they butt heads and so on and so forth. And also Sato, as we're going to learn, he's the studio. He's the studio who's funding the adventure and everything. So I'll get to the rest of the roles when the characters come.
Okay.
Right? But that's kind of where we're at. I like the little foreshadow on the rewatch. He says, I hate trains. And of course, we're going to learn why he hates trains.
Oh, God.
We really do get around in this movie because we go to Mombasa, we go to Tokyo, we go to LA, go to Paris, we go all over the place in this film.
Yeah. And the question is, like, are we even going to any of these locations?
Well, if you want to look at it that way, sure.
Oh, I am looking at it that way, sir. Don't even joke about that.
Okay, well, speaking of which, we probably with the whole.
I mean, that's a conversation we need to kind of stay. There's a lot of conversations within conversations in the spirit of this movie that we need to start having.
All right. Well, speaking of, okay, so now you mentioned that we have the spinning tops, and maybe we should address. Okay, so. Later on in the movie, Arthur's going to give the explanation about the importance of the totem. Now, you'll notice Cobb through the movie.
Meaningless.
Yeah, it's kind of.
Sorry, I sound like I'm drunk. I swear I'm not. It's meaningless, Dragon. The totem is meaningless.
Technically, yeah. You've heard this too, I take it. You've heard the whole. Basically, given Arthur's explanation later on, the idea is that in spinning the totem, that is Maul's totem, which means it has no...
Exactly. There is no reason in the logic, because this movie is a movie that's still... I'm sorry, I don't mean to get so passionate about this, but I've literally been thinking about this for a decade. This is a movie of rules, Dragon. It's a movie where you firmly establish all the rules pay off beautifully. It's one of the best kind of like universe building movies I've ever seen in that regard. So Arthur clearly lays out that rule of like, you need to use your own totem. You can't use another person's totem. Like, don't let another person feel your totem.
Mm-hmm.
So Dom using Mal's totem, basically nothing about that totem is reliable at all. So Dragon, therefore, I literally cannot trust anything in the movie if it's a dream or not.
True.
And honestly, I've come to the conclusion that it just simply doesn't matter. That Nolan's whole point with this movie is making you question what is a dream and what isn't a dream. And I honestly don't even think there's a solid answer. I don't think Nolan wants there to be a solid answer.
Well, you're right about that. Basically, what Nolan's trying to communicate is that the focus is a man who's obsessed with not knowing if his reality is, genuine, or if it's dream reality or not. What he cares about is like being reunited with his children. That's what the story is. The story is what was laid out when he washed up on the beach. It's a man who wants to be reunited with his children. That to him is what reality is, and he's assuming that reality is in right now is truly reality because he hasn't gotten that yet.
Mm-hmm.
Also, of course, there is the fan theory of if you, it's kind of interesting, and now, of course, Nolan hasn't weighed in one way or another because he doesn't want to take out the mystery, but he doesn't want to take out kind of what he's getting at. There's built-in ambiguity, of course, but the fact is, if you notice, oddly enough, it's trippy. Cobb, some people theorize that Cobb's totem is his wedding ring. Now, it's never stated, but some people notice because if you notice it, whenever we're in quote-unquote reality, Cobb never wears his wedding ring because she's passed away. He does not have his wedding ring, but in the dreams, he has his wedding ring.
Interesting.
Seriously, in every shot in the dream, he has the wedding ring, but in reality, he does not. Some people say that's the totem. That's how you can tell definitively whether he's in reality or a dream or not. So it's interesting. Not definitive, but interesting.
Okay, so one of the things that feels sort of dreamlike, I mean, it's not impossible, but kind of dreamlike, is just how Sato just kind of shows up at these inconvenient times throughout the first act.
It's a fair point.
Or not inconvenient, I should say very convenient in one case coming up.
Still, I mean, even here, I mean, it's kind of the point is like Sato has kind of these built-in entrances and exits. Like when the plot is relevant, you can look at that as
exactly how Leo describes how people come into dreams.
Exactly. So again, so now we're. So I don't know if they did a prequel comic of some kind. I don't think it was on one of the DVD releases. It was. I forget how they released this. There was like a prequel comic for Inception that was released where it was. You saw what Sato's talking about here with the Cobol engineering. The whole. Basically, Cobb's job, the initial job he went away for, what he was doing leading up to the Sato job.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of that's kind of what he's referencing here. It's kind of neat, a little supplemental detail. Not many people. Again, it's kind of old. It's really old at this point. Decades at this point, almost decades.
So, Dragon, I'm just going to bring up something right now. I know that Nolan has said he doesn't want to make a sequel, but my golly, my gee, I would love a sequel.
Well, it's a fun concept, but they can't bring Cobb back. It's like doing Men in Black.
I don't care about bringing Cobb back. That's the thing. I don't care about bringing Cobb back. I just want a sequel in this world. I just want to explore the world more. I have every faith in the world that Nolan can come up with more characters and just use the world. Maybe have Saito as the connective tissue. I don't know.
So I thought it was really smart that we gave kind of a 2-second explanation, this early in the movie, like roughly about 20 minutes in the movie, we give the explanation to what exactly Inception is, what is the main goal of the movie with the whole elephants example. It's a perfect explanation as to like, what is Inception? If I tell you don't have to think about elephants, you think about elephants. That's Inception, but I gave it to you. So basically we've explained what the premise is and why it's going to be difficult to do. So perfectly we've used that explanation. It's the title of some book on dreaming, I think, about the whole elephants example. I think it's where it stems from, I heard. But basically the problem is you can never do a clean plant. That's what's impossible about Inception. That's kind of like what our challenges in the movie here. We're trying to figure out in kind of the act one. It's kind of fascinating though. Years later we'd have something like Endgame where we'd have like a whole plotting of a time heist, one could say. And of course here we have like kind of a movie. It's all about like, again, similarly we have like a whole hour of an act practically of like, okay, we're plotting out the heist and then we begin the heist. It's kind of interesting.
I mean, I've heard a lot of people criticize this movie, like especially the first hour, for being exposition heavy, and it is exposition heavy. Well,
that's the point. It is exposition. That's the point. See, when Nolan was doing this movie, he knew if he's doing a heist movie, he knows you're not going to get all the character development you're going to get. You can't follow all of these characters. So the interesting thing that I did in the movie is that if you're in the middle of a heist, and basically the most you're going to get is the plotting and the assemblage of the heist. But in doing that, you're going to learn about these people through the exposition. I think it works. I think it works well. You learn everything you need to know about these characters, and the most we learn is again what we need to know about Cobb, and again we learn that through the architect and Ariane.
All right.
Of course,
so,
we meet Nolan's new good luck charm and Michael Caine.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, Michael Caine, his role in this movie is just kind of like, basically he's playing Alfred.
Well, father-in-law Alfred, but sure.
I mean, I'm just like, I'm not trying to, it's like
only
it's
a scene, all right. You can't blame him. He's only in there for.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's more of like this is more of an example of like a good luck charm than like a fully fleshed out character. I think.
Yeah, I was like, well, we'll get to that later. I was going to bring up something with Caine, but I'll say that for the other scene he has in the movie.
All right.
But you're right, though. It's basically, this guy. Again, this one talking about the whole like dissemination of information here. We learn this guy, his father-in-law here, taught him about dreams. He taught him how to navigate dreams, which he then took as once he was on the lam, he took it as to kind of perform the espionage on. That's how he kind of earns a living, kind of keeps on the run.
Mm-hmm.
So again, we're learning like little bits and pieces that we need to know here. That the idea is this was Maul's father, and of course, he's in Paris and everything. So again, it's she of French descent and everything. It all kind of tracks. Again, we're like filling like the little connecting dots.
Alfred's Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah,
he's living in Paris.
I was going to build to it, but again, you kind of have Nolan has this thing where he loves just kind of the Caine being reunited with people in Paris. He does. He loves.
I don't know why that's a thing, but that is a thing.
Loves like Caine reunion endings. Like, look at the Prestige, look at Dark Knight Rises, look at this.
Right.
Of course, this again, we cement Caine's importance to the finale in this scene right now. The whole comeback to reality, and that's kind of the gist of the movie. Again, like come back to reality. And of course, when we link up with his scene by the end, it's the fact of, well, yeah. So what is reality at that point? Like, what exactly is the reality when he's in that scene? Because we assume Michael Caine has been asked like ad infinitum, like, was the ending real? Was it in reality? Was it in a dream? Because again, he was technically in that scene, so he gets the brunt of it. He says, well, if I'm there, I assume it's reality because I wasn't in the dream in the earlier scene, which is a logical assumption. He doesn't know the answer, but it's a lot. It's going off of what he knows. Now we meet Ellen Page. So she has this like I believe it's like a silent D in the name or something. Ariadne, yeah. And her name is actually a nod to one of the great maze myths, the Greek Minotaur myth. She's the lady who helps solve the maze and the whole riddle of the Minotaur. Well, the Minotaur myth.
A little bit on the nose, I will say.
Yeah, it's kind of neat, but yeah, I think it goes over most of the kids' heads.
Okay, cafe scene.
Yeah, yes, but I also love, and again, this is really clever editing here, where we're seeing the setup. We, the audience, are seeing how they got there with Arthur right now, and she doesn't. So that's the thing. Like he's setting up the chairs and everything. This is the inkling we have to how they got there. But again, we don't know all this. Again, we're assuming there's a Parisian cafe where technically they're not.
Okay, so this cafe scene is, I don't know, Dragon, this might be hyperboil here, but it might be my favorite scene in any Nolan movie.
It's a great scene. It's definitely a great scene for DiCaprio, too. It's a really solid one.
I mean, everything about the way this scene comes together is just mesmerizing for me. The music, the practical effects, the goddamn city folding on top of itself. The cityscapes are very, very, very accurate to lucid dreaming. I can definitely confirm that much. I mean, just man, everything about this scene, it's just pure filmmaking. And the great thing about it, Dragon, is that it's visually just incredibly compelling. I think some of the visuals in this scene might even eclipse some of the visuals that we get in the actual heist. That's honestly one of my only complaints about the movie, is that I feel like in terms of trippy dream visuals, the movie peaks a little bit early.
Well, we're not there quite yet, Tiki, but yeah, I hear you.
But I don't know, like this scene in particular, it is just literally all exposition. But because, because of the filmmaking of it all, because you really get sucked up in the visuals and the atmosphere and the music and everything, it really does just kind of like transcend itself and become just this mind-blowing experience, at least to me.
All right, so what's really great here is that the way they shot this, obviously they can't tear up the streets of Paris, but what they've done here is that they're using air cannons, and they're a little bit of a digital kind of like thing to kind of like push the effect just a little further. And they're using air cannons, like the extra little explosions in midair. That's kind of a little digital assist right there. But and basically they're shooting with a high-speed camera, so most of it's like stuff flying in slow motion. And just kind of like add a little kind of spit and polish after in the aftermath, but. Seriously, it's like the abruptness of like how like all the cafe blowing up in her face just now, like that's great.
Oh yeah.
So again, but importantly, with that scene, that was so great about that scene is it's it's DiCaprio like bringing up like the epic like how did we get here? It's like those are like the haunting Memento-esque questions like how did we get here? It's like that's the big draw of the lucid dreaming right there. It's like the big question like how you realize oh God you were dreaming right now because you don't remember how you got here.
So here we go with the time thing, my friend. The time is just like so intricate in this movie, how it works, and people have just literally done studies on how the time works in this movie.
5 minutes, basically 5 minutes equating to an hour in the simple, like going from a reality to the main dream. So of course it gets more effective beyond that point. It's just like it gets it gets more complicated, more awesome beyond that point. But again, my point is I like how we're kind of laying out the breadcrumbs. Like this is basically how it works. Again, the first heist tells us all the essentials of what we need to know. And that okay, so. We also got to see kind of a taste of like a double Inception. We didn't see like we didn't see the full triple that we're going to get in the movie. We saw okay, so you have like they're on the train. That's where reality is. And then we go to basically the hideaway, and then we go beyond that to Saito's castle.
Right.
And pretty simple. And now, what we're doing here, of course, basically we're about to hit upon the visual splendor you were speaking of earlier here. This is where we're getting the exposition of how it works, and we're getting to see her play with things here. The idea, again,
like this whole city folding scene is, I don't know, Dragon, it might just, this moment right here, this shot, to me, it kind of defines great filmmaking of the 2010s. It's like, I don't think we ever had anything as visually compelling as this right here.
And again, this is Nolan kind of making his name as potentially the next Kubrick with stuff like this,
Right, for sure.
So, interestingly, of course, as I mentioned many a time when we talk, Nolan's a man of practical filmmaking. The man loves to do an in-camera effect when he can. And in this case, there are obviously with stuff like you can't fold as wonderful as Nolan is. There are some things even he can't.
Imagine.
I wouldn't put it. I mean, given what we've done with Dunkirk, I wouldn't put it past him in a few years from now, if I'm being frank. But in all seriousness, there are 500 visual effects shots in this movie. Now, here's the thing: a typical movie apparently does like a standard, like let's say like a moderate blockbuster movie does 2,000 visual effects. He did 500, and Batman Begins did 600. So that's kind of like
dare I say, like I'm sure, like MCU movies are probably going to the thousands, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like your standard movie be like 2,000. MCU like with Thanos, don't even get me started. But you see
exactly.
You see what I'm getting at. My point is like he did less than Batman Begins on this movie, but look what he did with it though.
Right.
And it's not like Nolan like using him willy nilly. He's using him for various like shots that you would absolutely need it for, but also you could really do something with, make it pop. It's something special. So, of course, as earlier, so again, the filmmaking kind of parallel with Ariane here is that she's the set designer. She's the one building the set. She's kind of the Nathan Crowley. Oddly enough, though, and Nathan Crowley, he didn't do this movie. It was like one of the few Nolan movies he didn't do. They had the new guy on this one. I think it's Gregory Diaz or something. I have his name. We'll get to his name later if I don't come up with it soon. Yeah, this stuff too. This is some fun in-camera stuff here. You're playing with the reflections of it all, adding this infinite effect. And basically, what she's doing here, she's creating using the mirror image. She's creating the rest of the street, like creating a new street.
Okay, so I'm gonna talk about like the one thing that I feel like I'm sure it varies from person to person, but I feel like it is very different from my own personal experience with lucid dreaming. The whole idea of like never drawing on real places. Dragon to me, I like this is gonna sound really cheesy, but I have like two distinct locations that I go to when I lucid dream. One is kind of like a big amalgamation of all the Disney parks, and it's like just huge and spans on. And ironically enough, in this dreamscape, there's also a really shitty Six Flags park that's kind of like, like, hey, if I want to go to Six Flags and ride some roller coasters, I got the off-brand Six Flags park too. Wee. And then another one is like just a kind of like a weird Santa Cruz Beach boardwalk with the Russian River rolling through it. So it's like it's kind of two different places from my childhood kind of combined together into one place. And those dreamscapes have always stuck with me, and they are very much based on real places.
And this whole antibodies thing, and of course, Maul this is a really scary moment for Maul right here.
That's what I'm saying, man. I don't think anything that Heath Ledger did was quite as scary as that right there. Maybe the pencil gag. Maybe the pencil gag.
This is what I'm saying. I can go with you that she's the scariest Nolan-Vember. When we get to the Joker, I mean, come on, man. Really, it's there's a line.
Scariest original Nolan.
There you go. I'll absolutely agree with you there. Absolutely.
All right.
Bear in mind, you really think about it, Nolan's not much of a villain guy when you really think about it, though.
Yes, man.
Yes. Anyway, no, but all seriously, I do love the whole the idea of your subconscious basically has these antibodies that react when something changes in the dream. And she was changing things willy-nilly, which is why they all converged on her. Of course, then you have the X Factor and Maul showing up there, where now she's been alerted to you because you did all this activity, and then she goes in for the kill.
Mm-hmm.
And now here's where
not quite accurate with the whole going in for the kill thing, but I will say that the more you start to mess with things in the dream, the more likely you are to wake up from it.
Well, and that's kind of what they're saying with it too.
Right.
The fact that you're going to wake up, in this case, waking up for at least cinematically done. It's like usually you get killed, and that'll wake you up. Either you get killed, or I guess you get so suspicious to the point where you wake up, or kicked. Those kind of one of those three.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so
I'm sorry, you were saying. Go ahead.
Yeah, Arthur right now he basically got into the whole totem of it all there, where he explained he had the loaded dice and everything, which we've already kind of covered. So, but of course that's where you realize the whole he has Mal's totem though. It's quite interesting.
Fishy.
Yes.
Robert Fishy. I'm sorry, that was really cheesy.
Fisher King. Anyway. Okay, so we are in Mombasa. Well, technically, we're not in Mombasa. We are in Morocco, made to look like Mombasa, but it's quite convincing, I gotta say. I've never been there. I buy it.
And here's a future star in the making, man, and this is really cool to go back to.
Ah, yes, Eames, the wonderful Tom Hardy. When I heard Tom Hardy was cast as Bane, just the main Tom Hardy thing I had to go off on was I hadn't seen Bronson or anything at that point, so I saw this, and of course, based on this one, I was like, man, he could be a good Bane, man. This guy's a good actor. This is probably my first exposure to Tom Hardy. I loved it.
It was definitely my first exposure to him.
This Eames character is great. I think he really is. He's very Claude Rains-esque from Casablanca. I don't know. There's kind of an element there where he's sort of he's gambling and everything. I love he has charm for days. He's kind of this forger who has charm for days, and I love. And I guess one time we're only knowing these
con artist with a heart of gold.
Certainly, and again, this is yet again, we're learning about these characters through their role in the heist, nothing more. We don't even know their full names. We only have Eames. His last name's Eames.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's all we need. And again, the idea, so Eames in the filmmaking sense, Eames is the actor, given he puts on the the mask and everything, which yet again will be another Nolan role of Tom Hardy where he's wearing a mask. So.
Also, I feel like the name Eames is a not so subtle, dreams Eames.
Well, it's funny you mentioned. I guess I'll mention it now. It's
I know
funny.
what you're gonna bring up. Go ahead. We have to.
Yeah, well, I think it's purely coincidental. Personally, I think it'd be awesome if it were intentional.
Has Nolan not confirmed it that it was intentional?
I don't think Nolan's confirmed it. I don't think I don't know that though. I haven't seen him say it, but I've read it somewhere that basically
go ahead.
Everyone once we're fully within the Inception heist, every character is basically put under their name spells out Dreams Pay.
Dreams Pay.
Yeah, you have Dom. You have basically it's a Dom Robert Fisher.
Okay, this is interesting. I haven't even heard the pay part. I just heard dreams. Okay, lay it out then. So Dom is D,
Robert Fisher. E for Eames, A for Arthur, M for Mal. If you can't, basically she's kind of a hitch and things.
Yeah, sure. M for Mal, yeah.
P for Peter Browning. So there's your P for Pay. And then you have Adrian. That's your A, and then you have Yosef, and there's your Y. So Dreams Pay.
Yeah. Oh wow.
So of course, this is something we've kind of toyed with in a few other things.
I don't know, man. That's like Nolan hasn't confirmed it, but that's like Dreams Pay is definitely kind of like one of the themes of the movie. The whole idea of like, profiting off of other people's dreams. I mean, that's definitely like the core premise.
I'm just saying it sounds a little too perfect for me. That's why I have trouble buying it. I mean,
didn't Mr. Robot pull off something similar though?
Not with a name spelling. No, I don't know.
The episode titles didn't
no, you're thinking of breaking your Better Call Saul. You're thinking of Better Call Saul.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Better Call Saul. You're right.
Okay, regardless. Okay, let me. This guy. This
back.
Look at this cafe guy.
That was real. Anyways, go ahead. Yes. I'm sorry. The cafe.
Yeah, this cafe guy is like, he's just basically the guy was just trying to hide out here, like, cafe. And this guy's just not how he's making a big scene about it, just gives his wife's position. It always bothered me when I watched them. Like, really? You couldn't pick up on the situation here? You couldn't just like play it cool, man?
This scene to me is one of the most compelling pieces of like maybe we're still in a dream of some kind. Because we've got a lot of the makings of a dream. We've got the, the subconscious people chasing him.
The maze-like situation here when he gets
exactly.
Basically, he gets jammed in between the.
And that's the one really obvious, like right here. The one really obvious kind of like visual parallel to dreams right here is the jammed in between the walls.
Yeah, but seriously, again, this is something Nolan's been kind of toying with even since Memento, when he has like a chase scene in a confined kind of labyrinthian area, and we kind of do it properly here, and it's fantastic the way we do here. I just love that I love the whole scene. Eames is very playful here, where he's saying like, he'll cause a distraction so he can get away. If he can shake his tail, then he's in, like whole thing. And yet again, another dream tip of the half. You want to look at it that way. You have Sato here coming in for the save. Protecting my investment.
That to me is like the most dreamlike thing that happens in this whole sequence. It's like, I know Sato says like, "Oh, I'm protecting my investments," but it's like, how lucky do you have to be, man?
I mean, like everything. I buy that he was following him, but in that moment, at that time,
that's what I'm saying. It's like, but again, I don't feel conclusively one way or another.
Yeah.
The only thing that I know for sure is that Nolan wants us to question it.
Absolutely. So here we go. Here's this is tremendous. Here we have Nolan loves the works of MCS. Yes, Nolan loves the MCS. Sure, he loves the Penrose stairs. The infinite staircase or the paradox. To put simply, there are many psych books that kind of like do some diagrams of the whole paradox thing. So what they did here is this is an actual built thing that they're walking on right now. What they did is they CG'd out the support beams underneath that shot where you go underneath his feet when he says paradox right there. So it's an actual, they put it in like an office building.
Nice.
Yeah. Of course, a nice little setup for Arthur's big victory later on. I love it. Arthur knows all the ins and outs of the paradox and everything. I gotta tell you, George Gordon-Levitt's just so cool in this movie to me. It's just love the way he's just really neat. Look, honestly, out of all the characters, Arthur's kind of the most Mr. Exposition, because you gotta remember, Ariana here, she's the most. We have kind of three sets of audience for this movie. Basically, our characters are kind of the view of the audience. So, Ariana primarily, she's our view and like how the whole dream works, like because she's the new player on the team. They're telling her how things work. She's being walked through how the whole shebang works. Robert Fisher, he's literally the audience. That's kind of his role in the cinema of it all, and the whole parallel there. He's literally the audience. They're trying to sway the skeptical audience. Right. And I'm trying to remember who we'll get to the third later. I think we get to we'll talk about the third when we get to that later. Point being, we have a couple views of audience here.
Okay, so the whole idea of like the opium, like the dream opium lounge, like people hooked up to the dream monitors, just like a drug den. That is like to me the most haunting thing that's always stuck with me about the movie. The whole like who are you to say otherwise? What is reality to them?
Absolutely, and this is where we.
And it's funny because I was talking to my coworker about it randomly, just I brought up Inception, and that was the scene that he instantly went to as well, was the whole like, yeah, all those people like hooked up to the dream machines, and like it's such a scary, realistic concept if such a technology existed.
So Yosef here, he's of course he's the chemist now. I'm not quite sure we land on Yosef. He's either like the effects guy or the editor, because again he's kind of bringing us from location to location with the sedation process. So it depends on how you look at it. He's kind of the effects guy and how he created the sedative here. But yes, right here though we have the. Oh, I love we had like the line, this is not a job for tourists. I love that connection between Sato and Eames. I love all these relationships that we're building. Like Sato and Eames have a dynamic. Eames and Arthur have a very, very kind of odd couple dynamic. And the best dynamic in the entire movie to me is Sato and Cobb. That's the best dynamic in the film. Like the building arc of they build a legit friendship, and I love that whole thing. It's a business. It's forged in business initially, but it kind of grows. It very much grows like a Casablanca friendship between. Between Paul Rains and Humphrey Bogart, almost. So yeah, here's your bit. Yeah,
they come every day to be woken up. The dream has become their reality, and who are you to say otherwise?
So this scene to me felt always like the most kind of.
That has just stuck with me, Dragon. That is a line that will never leave me. Like that line right there has become a part of me.
But yeah, this section here always felt the most kind of perchance the dream from Batman the Animated Series form. It always felt the most like, again, like, would you like to live in a dream reality? And these guys, yeah, they love to live in a dream reality. That to them is their reality. And again, we have the potential addiction that Cobb has kind of battled to overcome, like right in his face right now. Like, this is, again, his big guilt, his big shame is in dreaming. Basically kind of the question of like, what if you could, like kind of dream ad infinitum, or basically, kind of go on dreaming and essentially be a god within your own subconscious. Mm-hmm. So again, there's the appeal. And of course, right now, Sato here, he saw the totem. That's I recognize it later as an old man. Little touches.
Yeah, importantly, we see the totem and we don't see if he actually spins it or not.
Yep.
He goes for a reality check and he never confirms it's a reality.
That's true. You're absolutely right. That was a very striking visual. All of them just kind of hooked up to the thing, too. Yeah, it's really cool.
All right.
Let's see. So right now, of course, we're going over the mission. Basically, we're being informed about Robert Fisher, the MacGuffin of the piece. And he's the audience. He's kind of like, again, the story is really about Cobb's journey. That's kind of what the whole story is really about. But the journey of the mission is Fisher.
Mm-hmm.
And again, beyond that, it's like getting the audience the same emotional reaction that Fisher gets. That's kind of the idea. So I love this one.
I love how invested in the mission Eames gets in particular.
Yeah, exactly, because Eames is really into like, I'm going to pull off the impossible. Because the idea is that Eames has the most experience. Second to Cobb, Eames has the most.
Team Eames is like the guy who's like, oh, it's kind of fun to do the impossible.
That's the thing. Like Eames is kind of the fun-loving guy of the group here. So that'll be fun. Why not? We're importantly though, Eames second to Cobb is the one who's closest to achieving Inception. That they both have. They achieved Inception, but it didn't take. That's what he and Cobb have in common. They've done Inception. It's bloody difficult, as Eames says. Of course, Tom Berenger here.
Oh yeah.
Of course, Platoon for the Platoon fans out there.
And that's the thing. I feel like that's one of the things that this movie really excels at is, unlike a lot of other Nolan movies, like Dunkirk included, this movie excels in character, man. I mean, even this guy is a memorable character in his own way.
He is.
He's a minor role, but it's like he sticks with you.
Of course, the dying Maurice Fisher here. He's played by Pete Postlewaite. He's very well known for he's the assistant to Kaiser Soze in Usual Suspects. So that's the big one people know him from. But also he was in The Lost World.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's I thought you might get a kick out of that one. So, of course, oddly enough, again, I some people pointed this out. I don't know how official this is either. Again, I'm taking all the like the name stuff with a grain of salt from what I found here, because some of it sounds like it might be a coincidence with the whole dreams pay, but this thing too, the whole. So Fisher's name might be a nod to Bobby Fischer, the chess player, and some people, or with in the case of Maurice Fisher, the dying father, M.C. Escher, again, Escher being the whole M. Escher, Maurice Fisher. It's
Okay, I think that's a stretch.
I know that's what I'm saying. That's why I said take it with a grain.
That's a real stretch.
I'm not. I'm not agreeing with it. I'm just saying it's. I
mean,
believe
the Bobby Fischer thing, sure, why not? But
I will
not endorse that MC Escher.
I'm just saying with this movie, with this and all the theories about is it a dream, is it not a dream? There's some stuff you have to take with a grain of salt.
Yeah, sure. It's funny because in a lot of ways, this movie might be the new Shining in terms of like how many it's almost a movie that's designed to be interpreted in different ways.
Absolutely, yeah.
And again, I hate to just keep going back to like potential sequel and whatever, but one of the things I would like to see explored in a sequel, going back to kind of like the horror movie roots of this, is nightmares, Dragon. I really want to see we've seen what happens when the subconscious turns on you, but what happens when you're stuck in a dream where the subconscious turns on you?
Take this when you say I can't believe you're saying this, because I've always when I was watching this again, I reflected on my youth when I saw Inception the first time. I was like, you know what they should do with the sequel? They should do nightmares. And I just felt like such an idiot saying it. Like, yeah, what's the next thing you can do with dreams? Nightmares. The opposite. It feels like the dumb guy. It feels like the dumb pitch where it's like,
why do you have to take the air out of it? I still, it's an obvious idea, but sometimes the obvious ideas, I don't know. I think there's a lot of.
No, I mean, it sounds cool at the time. I'm saying I've been you, Tiki. It sounds cool at the time, but it's like when you really think about really, what are we going to say with nightmares? Okay, what he's going for here, it's about all the lucid dreaming of all the nightmare. I don't know. I don't know.
Dream terrorism. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe, but that's what I'm saying. Like, again, sounds good in concept, but when you really think about it, it's like, do we really? Is it really?
Fucking scaring someone into doing what you want them to do.
All right. Anyway.
All right. Anyway.
So now we're learning about. So again, basically, it's essentially it's like the night before the heist. Basically, they're about to be kind of like. Basically, it's kind of the pregame before the heist, and she's about to kind of learn about Maul here.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, kind of learning that he was kind of. Basically, kind of framed for her murder. You're not seeing the whole affair of exactly what happened quite yet, but we're kind of like, again, they're disseminating the information we need, and basically get some more of the kind of fire for the emotional catharsis later on for Cobb. Going to sprinkle that again. Like the other big relationship of the movie is not in the romantic sense, obviously, but in the sense of kind of like a pupil and student between Cobb and Ariadne.
Yeah. I'm sorry, it's Dragon. It's Ariadne. Like Michael Caine clearly has a D in there when he says her name.
Ariadne.
Ariadne.
Is it Ariadne?
It's Ariadne. I'm telling you.
Ariadne. All right, fine. Ariadne. All right, I got it.
All right, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be a stickler. It's just I watched this movie a million times when it first came out.
Well, it's not a simple name.
No, it's not. I know it's not.
Anyway.
All right.
There's the odd couple dynamic comes in here with Eames and.
Oh God.
Oh, good. I love it. I just love it. He and Arthur just have this really cantankerous relationship, but he's lovingly kind of poking the bear here with Arthur. I love it.
So I think this movie kind of just distributes its information in. It's almost kind of like a drip feed of information almost. And I think it works really well in that regard because it doesn't overwhelm the audience with too much at one time. It presents different ideas in visually compelling sequences. And it kind of builds on those ideas as it goes along. This is going to sound like a weird comparison, Dragon, but it's almost kind of video game-like in how it's set up, because with video games and the early levels of video games, it's all about kind of like establishing what you can do in the game, what what powers do what and everything, what the gameplay's like. And then as video games evolve, like this movie evolves, you kind of play with it, and you have to combine different powers to achieve goals and stuff like that. So I mean, I really do think that within the context of this movie, it's just kind of, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought with that video game thing. I'm sorry, that was maybe too complicated of an analogy. Go ahead, save me, Dragon.
I love in the earlier scene you saw Yosef late at night with Cobb, where basically he's hooking up Cobb to the machine, and basically Cobb's, you think is preparing for the heist. In reality, he might be just dreaming and testing the compound. But I presume in that scene, that's where he makes the side deal for the whole sedate, go with the risky thing, sedate us really deeply to the point where we can't get killed to wake up. And that's where basically he's offering him his whole share. I believe that's what's happening in kind of the lead up to that scene that we didn't see. It was like my little headcanon on that. Yes, the kick. Oh, the kick. This is a fun dream phenomenon here. Like one of the best.
The kick is such good logic, and again, I can't even call it illogical logic. It is literally just logic. It is literally what happens. It is based in fact.
Mm-hmm. So basically, again, this is what I'm talking about right now. Right now, we're planning the heist here. We're like we had like a little chart laid out. Okay, how do we do catharsis here? How do we get the idea like to dissolve his father's company? Well, we figure out the relationship with the father, and then we kind of create a positive experience, which would be the catharsis that gets him to commit to a choice. We do that. We're laying out like a little builds, like kind of what the landscape's going to be, like a little maze-like thing, all this sort of stuff, all the semantical stuff. Bear in mind, how kind of I always love when we do the little mundane like setup for things. So of course here this flying thing is genius. So so essentially Cillian Murphy here, he's playing Robert Fisher as Australian essentially, and he is, and the idea he flies from Sydney to LA on the regular. I believe his mother was, well, the point being his father currently is in Sydney, so visit his father in Sydney and go from there to LA.
Mm-hmm.
And right now he's, I just love it that say just bought the airline just in case. I just wanted to be a good cover, be cleaner that way. If I just bought the whole airline, therefore we secure ourselves 10 hours, which essentially puts him in deep because there's any surgeries coming up. Basically, we drug him on the plane. There's our end. That gives us plenty of time, 10 hours, which you've seen we can do with 5 minutes. Just.
Yeah, it's such a good wraparound. It's such a good work around the logic of how they're going to get in the same room with Sato and have him dream, the same room with Fisher and, share a dream with him and everything. It's such a clever, it's such a clever solution to a potential writing roadblock that you would have in crafting this movie.
Right. So we have Ariadne, right?
Okay, say it with me. Ari. Adney.
Adney. Okay, Ariadne. Gotcha.
Ariadne.
Ariadne. Yeah. Got it. Okay, locked in. Ariadne here. So she's going down, and she's kind of like, we're kind of peeling away the layers of the subconscious of Cobb here. Basically, we're kind of going through the memories of Maul, and of course, the deeper we go, the more horrific and more kind of more tragic they get. And it's also this notion of Cobb. Cobb is trying to achieve it's kind of the sad portrait of Cobb in love with the impossible dream, and also leads a few scary bits here. Wherever, like the minute she went down the elevator, Maul sensed her, and she turned, and she just and just like this sensor there, like essentially because she is part antibody. She's part antibody of the subconscious as well as a memory. It's kind of locked in there, so she has that innate sense, and it's just kind of terrifying. She can sense like an intruder, and that's how she can always like foil the heist when it's going on.
I can say that beaches are definitely a big reoccurring imagery in lucid dreams. As I already pointed out, one of my big lucid dreaming locations is the Santa Cruz boardwalk, or at least kind of like a weird, fantastical amalgamation of that. Of course, being a boardwalk, a beach is right next to it. So I don't know, just in my own personal experiences, that is something that I can kind of relate to and draw from with the lucid dreaming imagery of it all.
Yeah. So again, basically, we're taking again. This is definitely okay. This is specifically is like our pre-heist moment here, where now all of it's kind of on the table here, where she learns, where Ariadne, I got it that time, where she, where basically, this is our excuse to establish Cobb's stakes and the reason for the heist. Which again, given we're very sparse with our, we just know what we need to know. Now we know like deeper. Like, okay, he wants to be reunited with his kids because of this trauma that he faced, and basically the mother of his children was taken away. It's all his fault. And basically, it's not just the father wanting to be reunited with his children; it's also the guilt of like he kind of ruined their lives in a sense as well. So it's like all this kind of charging why this man's going to take such desperate risks. Because again, this heist is going to go sideways in a big way because of him, and it is all entirely Cobb's fault.
Oh yeah,
this heist goes sideways. But again, it's a desperate man doing anything it takes to be reunited with his children. I love that no one really hates him for what he's done too. I just love they're not happy with it, but it's like they can't blame him. Especially Eames. Eames is really forgiving with him too.
Well, like I said, I think with Eames, he's just kind of like invested in like the family soap opera of it all. He just wants to see how it plays out.
Yeah, especially with the Fishers family soap opera too.
That's what I'm saying.
Of course, the idea here too is that memories and regrets, they're the ultimate temptation in a dream. I mean, you, Mr. Lucid Dreamer, can you relate to that at all? Have you ever gone through a memory?
Yeah, memories definitely for sure. Because like I said, like Disneyland, all that stuff, very, very positive memories in my life. Obviously, like this whole channel is built around it. My identity is built around it. Regrets, I don't know. That's like I can more relate to stress being involved in dreams than regret in particular. But again, dreaming is such a vast phenomenon for different people that I mean, I will say I don't think I've ever had a dream of like a particular moment in my life I wish I could change or anything like that. Like that's definitely not a reoccurring thing. I've had dreams of where I've been house sitting for my grandma and she comes home early and the house is a mess and I'm like frantically trying to clean it up before she gets home and she's like on her way to the airport. And I've had dreams about failing college classes, and honestly those dreams are maybe the closest things we get to regret. The fact that like I am just not cut out for college. I was a terrible college student in spite of being a really good high school student. So, when I dream about college and just getting into classes and just really sinking them, yeah, those are definitely reoccurring.
So
I'm sorry, the therapy session was brought to you by So You Want to Be an Imagineer.
Yep. So I love at the end of this scene, what we're gonna have is when we kind of do our last minute escape from Maul here with the broken glass here with it's basically as we go into the elevator, and I love it's an old timey elevator too. I love it has like the gate and everything. And what I love about this gate is that when it closes and we just have like this Maul just like this, you promised.
Oh God, it's just the shot of like Maul just like intensely like looking up as the elevator's rising.
Yes, and what I'm getting at, Tiki, is I love that she's literally not only a memory, but she's a prisoner. She's a memory who's been imprisoned in Cobb's subconscious. And I love what that shot communicates there. That's what you with like the elevator looks like prison cell, like a prison cell as well.
Oh yeah.
So the big takeaway here is that Ariadne, she's pushing to come along, and this kind of leads to the big third act save when things could completely belly up. Because if she didn't come along, essentially she's been calling him out on the Mall stuff, saying if you're going to take this risk of no one else knowing, you have to tell Arthur, otherwise I have to come with you into the street. She was just supposed to design things. She wasn't supposed to come along. She's new. She's an intern practically, a dream intern, one could say. No, she has a bigger role than that, I know, but it's it's like for simplicity. Hey, my point is like she's a little green to be put into the thick of it all during the big make or break mission.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fact, she's pushing for this, and it does kind of save the day with the whole like she comes up with a big improvisational plan that kind of in the fifth hour of things.
All right. So let's just talk about the fact that like a big chunk of this movie, a big chunk of it is basically one giant action set piece.
Yes.
And I don't know, like, how do you feel about that? Because of course Nolan would go on to kind of top that with Dunkirk. And Dunkirk, basically, that whole movie is just action set piece, but done in like the most compelling way possible. But really, I mean, from the get-go, like from the minute that we're in that dreamscape, when when Yusuf arrives and it's all raining and everything, from that point forward, we have such a forward momentum, and we the closest thing we get to stopping is Ariadne maybe guilting Cobb about dragging them in, and the conflict of that and everything. But really, there's no stopping. It's almost like Mad Max Fury Road levels of just pulse pounding in just how nonstop the action is. And it's just so well put together too. And all the time signatures, especially like once the car goes off the bridge, we'll get to that, but just the way that's edited together is just so suspenseful. It's just, I don't know, like I'm not a big action guy, but when you can really do an action focused movie that really grips me with a compelling concept, then that's where you get me. That's where you get me. I mean, Fury Road is the same thing, and this is definitely in the same vein as Fury Road, in my opinion.
Two things. One, I just want to mention, I'm a sucker for suspenders, man. It's a good look.
Yeah, right on, Cillian Murphy.
That's what I'm saying, man. He rocks. Look, that's a well-dressed man right there. He is. Secondly, though, Nolan's cousins in this movie. I like it when I like when the shades of nepotism show up in the Nolan movies. Where we had his uncle in Dunkirk, and now we have his cousin Miranda here as the stewardess.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, in terms of the division of kind of our pacing here, again, like an hour of prep, which I'm not complaining about. It's like an hour of prep.
Because, like I said, the prep is not just like exposition.
It's us meeting our characters. It's us.
It's us meeting our characters and getting introduced to the concepts one by one.
Yeah, and we get the heist. We got an example of a heist at the very start of the movie, so we had a little something that kind of tied us over, and we got to see visually like what again like. Ariadne, she kind of building things as the architect and everything in the mindscape and all that sort of stuff. We got our money's worth there. So of course now point is like an hour into it. Now we're actually starting the heist, and of course Yosef.
And my God, this is where Nolan just goes into overdrive. This is just like. Dragon, I will say at this point, like in Hollywood history, this might have been like one of the most ambitious action set pieces ever attempted.
Of course, Yosef here really should have laid off that last glass of champagne.
I love that detail. Okay, again with the lucid dreams, Dragon. Some of the most stressful lucid dreams, I don't want to get too graphic with this, are dreams where it's like, I need to pee. In the real world, I need to pee. And Dragon, in the actual dream, I keep going pee. And it's like nothing is ever good enough. Like I find a toilet. I piss. I immediately have to go again. I'm on a walk. I'm like, oh God, I really have to piss. I piss in the bushes.
All right, I
really have to go again. You get my point.
I get
very,
the
very, very stressful. Very stressful.
Okay, it's also, I'll take the opportunity to acknowledge again, Nolan making the bathroom joke relevant and actually apply. Again, we had it in Dunkirk and we have it here. Nolan knows how to make a bathroom joke.
Right. God.
Give it thematic heft.
You really like
this
that.
Raining
you really like
okay,
that dramatic bathroom humor in Dunkirk.
I'm just saying, it's like such a serious movie, and we have, but again, it introduces our characters, man. It's funny. Anyway, I'm just saying, Nolan's such an austere filmmaker. Like we just don't acknowledge, again, this is his take on like kind of a bathroom joke, but it's actually, yeah. Okay, anyway, so the train. Talk about the train here. Train is really impressive. So the train was.
Man, okay. Train is definitely like outside of the folding city. I would say the train is the second most iconic visual thing in this movie.
It's not visual, it's practical.
Well, no, I know it. I'm just saying, like, in terms of just like iconography, Dragon.
Oh, sure. Sorry, I was going to try to say here. Basically, the train.
The image of the train rolling through the city. Mm-hmm. It's just man.
Okay, so a few things.
Said, outside of the folding city. I mean, that's got to be the most iconic set piece.
Yes. All right, so of course our shootout here, very Heat-inspired. Christopher Nolan being a fan of Michael Mann's Heat, if anyone didn't pick up anything from The Dark Knight.
So I like how we established that the subconscious can get hostile And then once we're in the thick of things, we know the subconscious can get hostile, but it's like we racket it up a notch. Like, oh God, it's like this is like a high security subconscious that knows to go after us. It's a great way to kind of like establish the rules and then heighten the rules.
Remember, he's had training, so he's had military training for essentially dream combat. That's why he's creating projections that are armed. That's the idea.
Right, exactly.
So the other thing though with the train,
which is basically kind of like Nolan's way to make this kind of a Bond-esque movie.
Certainly. So again, with the train, I love the fact that it's a practical train. It's basically took a tractor trailer and they kind of redressed it with like kind of wood and fiberglass. And what the only digital thing they did is like they add like kind of the torn up streets underneath to really sell the effect. Like the only CG you have there, but it's really driving down the street and they add like a row of cars to show the impact of the whole thing. And of course, the sound design, it comes out of nowhere and bam! Like once she gets in the car, like bam! Hit by the train. Of course, now things have gone belly. Put that train collision, and everything's just kind of gone off the rails. I love that right into the heist, things have gone wrong already.
Saito's been shot. Saito is, of course, the only reason Dom's there doing this to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's okay. Saito's just going to wake up. He's just a tourist anyways. Nope, actually not.
Yep, because Cobb's really screwed the pooch on this job here. This is the thing. This is what DiCaprio again. Screaming DiCaprio yet again. It's all it's trademark. DiCaprio basically losing.
What was the phrasing that you used for DiCaprio that amused me so much?
What do you want me to say it now?
Yes, I do.
Screaming baby face. It was.
Screaming baby.
That was in a competitive sense, folks. I had to come up with something to basically, he's either screaming babyface or screaming southerner. That's usually what the idea. It's like DiCaprio usually plays a southerner or he plays someone who's screaming a lot in the movies. Anyway, my point is here. Cobb, he's like trying to deflect all the blame onto Arthur. He's like, chewing him out there before. It's like, yeah, it's all your fault, man. You didn't acknowledge the train. You wanted them that's kind of fly under the radar, and of course the fact that no, we're all sure we all can't die. It wasn't supposed to be a violent mission. That's why he didn't feel the need to tell anyone, or really might have second guessed that. Like, okay, well, if there's a risk of us being shot, I probably should tell him.
And of course, like I said, this is like basically the one little reprieve from the action that we get, basically for the rest of the movie until we wake up. Would you agree?
Yes, this is like the time we're given to hunker down, kind of think of our next move. Yeah. Remember, they have some breathing room here with the interrogation and everything.
Common area they have after this, but for the most part, it is just kind of like go, 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 go. And of course, this is very much kind of like in the grand style of Dunkirk, a ticking clock movie. And, like I already kind of alluded to with the bridge, we'll get there. There's a ticking clock that is just like one of the most suspenseful ticking clock mechanisms I've ever seen in a movie with that damn bridge that we'll get to. All right.
So I love this before Eames really gets into the whole Fisher affair right now. It's like, okay, it's too dangerous. I'm just sitting this one out. And of course, over time, he's going to, you can remember, he's going to have to literally play off of the kid. He's going to have to play off of Robert Fisher as Browning when he put the mask up and everything. So I think that's kind of what gets him really into it all there, because he's getting into the role.
Oh yeah,
proxy. He gets into the story. Wanting to know what happens here. So again, as you mentioned, the ticking clock factor is very fascinating. That basically, with all the things going wrong, things have been ratcheted up even when they had like more time. Again, but right now, remember, in this level of the dream, I believe they have a week here, and when they go further, it turns to the months, and then beyond that, it's years. That's the idea. So right now, we're in it's like they have a week here. Basically, the dream will run out in about a week on this level. Of course, really clever idea here. I love the semantics here. Again, they're going to need to be with this guy in other dreams. That's why they're masking up right now, because they need him to trust him later on. Yeah. That's why they're wearing the mask, especially with the whole Mr. Charles of it all. Now, this is a detail that really fascinates me on the rewatch here, the pinwheel photo. Now, the fact is, we saw in reality, let's just go with reality for simplicity's sake. We saw in reality that Fisher had the photo of him with the pinwheel and him and his father, the happy memory that he put on the father's bedside. Now, the idea is that he's thinking about that, and he's projected that into his wallet. He probably isn't carrying that in his actual wallet, if I'm a betting man. He probably isn't. But then again, I don't know. He might have taken it with his father dead. He might have taken it, put it in his wallet. I don't know. The point being, in the dreams, he is projecting it into the wallet, and it's the image that continues to appear in his wallet as they go into the next level as well. So that's Eames' tip off. That Eames is holding on to that photo. Eames knows this is Eames slowly getting the idea, like, this pinwheel is the key. That this is my key to the catharsis.
Right.
Yeah, it's a really nice kind of arc with Eames there with the whole. And of course, now he only has an hour to really kind of. He has an hour to really get a baseline. Okay, how can we manipulate this guy in the next level? What's the secret here? Like, give me some father-son moments. Give me some bonding here. And of course, he finds out Maurice Fisher was kind of a prick. Like a big prick, man. He was. Just the fact that when the kid's mother dies, there's nothing really to say. And he was on 11.
There's nothing to say, really.
God, my favorite moment too. It'll come up a little after that when he says his father's last words were disappointed, and just I love like the oy vey moment on Peter Browning's face, like where you see like the exhale, like what am I like? I'm getting nothing. This is going to be more difficult than I thought.
Right.
And I want Nolan to work with Cillian Murphy even more. Like that. Look, he was great in Dunkirk, but I want like a lead role with Cillian Murphy because he deserves it, man.
That would be great. Yeah.
He auditioned for Batman Begins. I mean, I so want to see him in a lead role. And this is what I'm talking. This is the kind of place where I fall in love with Sato here. I love where Sato he's such an honorable man. The fact that even injured, even probably is going to be taken out, he assures like he wanted to be there to witness it. But at this point, it's like, okay, I trust you. When I go out here, when I'm taken out of the dream, I'll still honor the arrangement. I love that idea. That's so beautiful. I love that Cobb appreciates it. It's like, yeah, you're not going to remember. You're going to be essentially, you're going to become an old man if you go to limbo if you die.
And this whole thing like really sets up all those themes of like, the old man waiting to die alone sort of thing that loops back around. And
I love that. Obviously, there's a literal payoff that we, the audience, have probably at this point a good idea of. If you're watching it for the first time, you probably have a good idea. Okay, we know we're going to end up with this whole old man analogy, but the real analogy, the emotional arc of like the two of them, Cobb learns that he is like a cautionary tale of what he could become. That's kind of the overall arc of what he could have become an old man with regrets alone.
Right.
See, right now he's trying to figure out, okay, maybe I can finesse him with the will here. Maybe I can find out what's important, what would be in his dream safe. The idea, everybody has a safe of like whatever secret they're guarding. Like there's kind of the key is in a safe somewhere, and they're trying to essentially to make it a heist movie. Have like I love that device. I don't think it's an actual. I don't think it's an actual lucid dream.
I don't really think it's an actual thing either. I know I haven't experienced anything like that, but I do think it works well. It's kind of like that great thing that Nolan does of mixing science with fiction. Yeah,
and again, it complements the heist movie at all. Okay, very simply, you're trying to break into a safe, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So we've literalized it, which again, same difference. Point is, it's hidden somewhere in a significant portion of the subconscious, somewhere in one part of the landscape. With Malt in a dollhouse, with Fisher, it's in it's like next to his father. It's like all these very specific places. Disappointed.
Oh God!
Sorry, that's a bad movie pull. Anyway, but yeah, just like the oy vey face from Browning. There's Tom Berenger. It's great.
And of course, he has to kind of play it like not as how Browning the character would play it, but as how Tom Hardy acting as Browning would play it.
Exactly, it's just great. Very layered. Oh, by the way, did you know Mal? Mal, even in a few languages, Mal, of course, Mal translates to unhappiness.
Isn't it kind of like an offshoot of malevolence?
Not malevolent. Well, I think it's one of the, you might be right. I'm not sure. All I know is like there's this one interpretation like mal. Like if you look in Italian, you have noce mal, which means not good. And I believe in the French, the French derivative of the word, which is more in sync with her. The French derivative of the word it comes from like not so good as in unhappy or like kind of misery or unhappiness. So that's kind of like worse. So mal is kind of like the guilt and the sadness of Cobb. So it's kind of all relative. Or again, the sadness that brought her to the brink of suicide, all that sort of stuff.
Okay, so this whole thing, this whole idea of
50
spending
years.
a lifetime with someone in a dream world, then coming back to the reality and
Mm-hmm.
the significant other not being able to accept that it's not a dream.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, Dragon. There's just something cosmically tragic about that. Just
It's
epically, like Shakespeareanly tragic about that.
just the trippy ramifications of you're in a dream for years. You have godhood, and you age 50 years, and then you have to go back to mortality. That's what
Mhm.
their number on her. That's what brought her to the brink right there. And remember, the whole notion that we learn is that she wanted to stay there, and he had to trick her to get out of there.
Yeah. Inception. He had to incept.
Exactly. That's the thing. That's the again the name of the movie also again
Yeah,
has
he said it. He said it.
no, but seriously, I love again the name of the movie isn't just like what the job is, but it's what Cobb's trauma is. So again, a little bit a little bit of your MacGuffin in there with the whole Fisher job of Inception versus the actual. The point being, nice little multi kind of layers to the title there.
And of course, now that we're talking title on an even grander level, I feel like the title just represents Nolan incepting the idea into your mind of like, wait, is this a dream or is it real?
Sure.
All right.
So of course, again, it's really messed up how she framed Cobb for her murder to ensure that he would also commit
Oh
suicide with her.
man, yeah. That's jeez. I mean, so many of these details of this backstory just really cut deep for me. I mean, like I said, Drake, just cosmically tragic is the like. I don't even know what that means, but for some reason, that phrasing of words sounds right to describe this.
Oh, it is cosmically tragic.
I will say that at the time this movie came out, I was dating someone who had mental illness, bipolar. So some of the stuff really cut deep with me in terms of just like, someone who was struggling with ideas of like reality versus what's in your head versus what is real. I mean, obviously not in the context of like, oh, I'm in a dream, but I don't know. It definitely sort of like cut into me like the whole idea of like your actions impacting another person and everything. I still get emotional about this movie because of that.
It already passed, but when we started to go into the flashback territory that we're in right now, we saw them on the sandy beaches. We had a really trippy shot where basically they're constructing sandcastles that also construct the architecture behind them.
Uh-huh.
And what's really cool about that too is again, there's your thematic link to the kids building the sandcastles on the beach, which is kind of what's on Cobb's mind at the start of the movie, and kind of the main image he sees of the kids turned away from him. So again, kind of nice with the whole building of the sandcastles and kind of the bedrock of the mind, with the limbo area.
Yeah.
And again, this is so tragic. Again, all of this poor Cub here, where again he just wanted his wife to wake up, and in doing so, again, this is what happens when the idea doesn't take, folks. It's not a pretty picture. We're going to do serious
Yeah, and with
damage.
that in mind, just kind of, a lot of the best stories have hesitant protagonists that don't necessarily want to be on the journey that they're on. And
Nolan loves a
honestly, I
flawed
think in terms of
protagonist.
the 2010s, I think Cobb might be one of the better hesitant protagonists.
Nolan's had a string of just excellent protagonists out there, very flawed or morally questionable people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, Cobb had good intentions here, but still, it's like there's some with a world where you can kind of like control a dreamscape. There's obviously like literal sense.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Also, I always read into it that another reason Cobb was pursued outside of the whole the frame up for the murder of his wife. I mean, that's the main reason. My head can every time I rewatch the movie, I keep remembering like, oh yeah, because of the frame up. That's why he was on the run. Because I always think he stole the military. We exposited early in the scene with Arthur and Ariande. The whole the idea he's they have this the suitcase that basically our miracle exception for the movie, our miracle exemption of the movie is the idea we have this device that puts everyone to sleep simultaneously. The whole dream sharing device, which basically was a combat simulator for the military. I love the logic of that. I love how it's like it's believable enough. It's like the sci-fi idea of the movie.
Uh-huh.
This is why like extraction and extractors like a business and a whole like subconscious security. It's like an actual thing in this universe because of this device. I always imagine they stole the device, and maybe that's additionally why they're kind of like on the run in this whole espionage gambit. That device is like a military thing. I don't know. Question how commonplace is like if you could buy it like as like a from like a military supplier of some variety, or if it's like they stole it from military installation as like another reason on top of the whole mall thing. But I don't know. The point being, they're in a legal business, so maybe
I mean,
that's
that's one of the things that I would be interested in seeing on Inception. Like, honestly, Dragon, I don't like. I feel like an Inception prequel might be the way to go if we were ever to get a continuation. Because with a prequel, you could establish like how Miles taught Dom to dream in the first place, and that whole thing. You could see it going wrong. I mean, I don't know. I think there's a lot. You could see the technology at play, how the technology was developed. I don't know.
sure. Of course, right now I love the combination thing. This is my favorite Kubrickian little thing in the movie. I love how I love the logic of okay, the first numbers that come to your mind. Of course, obviously, in the landscape that they're in right now, that'll probably work for them. It comes with 528, 491. Now, those numbers, in the breakup of three here, like 528 as well as 491, they permeate other aspects of the dream when we go deeper into the layers, into the other dreams here. We go to like the room number in the hotels. There's 528 and 419. Those are the two adjoining rooms.
Uh-huh.
And the combination to the safe later, it's that number. The number on the napkin, her phone number, is that number. I love how it just keeps popping up. And again, with significance, that again, we're cementing in Fisher's mind for when it pays off later for him with the safe.
And just to go down the checklist, I can confirm that repetitions and visual motifs are definitely a part of dreams for sure.
Okay, this is the cool trailer bit here. This honestly, my favorite bit with Tom Hardy. My favorite line with Tom
You have to
Hardy.
dream a little bigger, darling.
Dream a little bigger, darling.
Honestly, I feel like that was when the world was introduced to Tom Hardy. Was that moment right there?
Yeah, when I heard it was in vain, that was the line right there. That's like, you have to dream a little bigger, darling. And there's him showing up Arthur here.
I feel like in that way. Remember, that was the thing that that was the money shot that ended out the whole trailer.
I know that was essentially that was the
great thing about that.
Dunkirk.
It was it literally wasn't even a money shot at all. It was just Tom Hardy being Tom Hardy and being awesome. And it's like, yeah, this movie might have mind-blowing effects and an awesome concept, but god damn it, we have likable characters too.
No one gives Nolan enough credit here. He does have fun levity in his movies at times. Yeah, not in your face, but he just naturally worked in. Like Lucius Fox is always kind of those Lucius Fox Bruce Wayne scenes in the Dark Knight trilogy. There's always a sense of levity and fun. I'm saying, I always have of course, some of the Alfred Bruce Wayne stuff in Batman Begins, the whole you're gonna have to take up sports and polo and everything, all that.
And like I said, even the Joker, as dark as he is, has an element of comedy to him.
Sure, yeah. I love how when we go deeper into each of the dreams. I love how Sato's wound. I love how it basically gets better each basically the wound kind of ages, as in it's not a fresh wound. It kind of time has passed and time is slowing down. Therefore, he's in better shape as we go down until we get to so there's a certain limit to it where it's still a wound. Where he's still not great. Of course, I also love the idea that everyone has an assigned role. There is a specific dreamer to each level. The first one was Art. The first one was Yosef, because that's why it was raining.
Uh-huh.
And we get to Arthur. Arthur's the one who did the hotel. And I'll be honest, though, the only hitch I can see every time I rewatch the movie is technically Eames is the one who dreams in the third level, but we're kind of going into Fisher's mind too. That's where things get.
Yeah, I noticed that rewatching, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Eames does wake up, so we know we're in Eames'
right,
dream. It's the logic of every time I was rewatching. Initially, I thought, okay, well, Fisher he has a bond. Fisher must have a bond thing going on. That's why he can. Why on earth would they think of this whole fortress as the third level? Because that's the thing. It's the logic. Why on earth would they think of a giant, a giant Snow Fortress.
Okay, we'll get there when we get there, but
Yeah,
the Snow
sure.
Fortress is like visually my least favorite thing in the movie.
Oh, well, again, let's put a pin in the Snow Fortress. We'll
All right.
break it down there, see if we can kind of find any sense. Anyway, so the Mr. Charles Gambit going on here, and the Mr. Charles Gambit is a really ingenious one. Basically, it's like again, it's after the Prestige, it's like magic. It's like the ultimate distraction, where it's like you just address the con right in its face. Where yes, this he's basically saying that he's an extractor. He's basically doing what he did Saito early in the movie, where he's basically kind of coming up to him and saying, I'm an extractor and you should hire me. And basically, I trained you in like what to do. Basically, I'm the leader of all your guys earlier in the movie, all the mental protection guys, the projections you had earlier. I love Eames disguised himself as the lady and just and Saito is falling for her. I love that so much. That's what I'm saying. Is the banter is great, and I love that I love the whole not the emotional payoff of this is not a job for tourists, and just the whole he and Saito are having fun on the side.
Right.
It's charm. It's quite that Tom Hardy's such a charming lad. Someone should give that guy a black suit and let's see what happens. Yeah.
Right.
Of course, this is a big thing from the trailers too. The whole subconscious security cell, and you have like the Inception music playing behind it and everything. Well, I specialize in a very specific type of security.
Right.
I think honestly, it kind of recontextualized what people thought of the movie. I think initially they thought he was going to be like literally what he's saying here versus him like trying to heist this guy. No one knew what Fisher's role was going to be in the movie, which is as it should be. I'm just saying.
Well, like I said, when the trailer first came out, I really didn't know what to make of it. Like when he said a different kind of security, and we saw like the floating hotel rooms and everything, I was just like, okay, like do they have like a fucking bank vault in space? What's going on?
All right, so Guy Hendricks Diaz, that's the guy I was thinking of earlier. He's the one who did the builds and the set designs, and instead of Nathan Crowley, who usually does it. The guys did it since Begins onward, and did the mole from Dunkirk. That guy.
Mm-hmm.
He but what we have here, we do a lot of gimbal work in the second layer of the Dream, in the whole hotel section of the Dream here. So this whole set, this whole bar set we're in right now, it's really great. And as things again start to impact this reality from Yosef's driving here, they're on a gimbaled set, but everything's bolted down. The actors are instructed to stay where they are because the idea is only the liquid tilts in that scene. The whole set's tilting, but nothing else moves but the liquid.
Right.
It's a whole set that's actually tilting, but everyone's instructed to stay in place. Of course, Arthur being really sly. And JGL, I could watch a whole bunch of movies with JGL, I tell you, man. It's tremendous.
Whatever happened to him, by the way?
The last thing I saw him, remember Snowden. That was the last thing he did.
Yeah, but I'm saying that was a while ago.
Well, it's funny. The most recent thing I saw him, he did the 50th anniversary for Sesame Street thing on HBO.
Oh, okay. So he popped up in that. All right. It always concerns me when actors I like, go away for an extended period of time.
Of course, right here, he's just, he's going to go on the gambit. He was basically told him, how did you get here? He basically pulled the thing on Ariadne earlier in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Ariadne, earlier in the movie, yeah.
Ariadne.
Yeah.
Ariadne. All right.
Right. So right now, Fisher basically he's just kind of coming to grips with things right now. Basically, the projections are calming down as he's beginning. Basically, he's literally it's such a smart con. He's basically telling him, "You have to trust me right now. Basically, get past basically make me immune to the antibodies of your subconscious right now." And he does.
Uh-huh.
So I love how Fisher becomes part of the team. By the way, I love that element of the movie. I love it when he's kind of and they're pulling the con on him, but I just love the fact that we found a way to have our cake and eat it too. He's not just the MacGuffin; he's the helper.
Yeah, he's participating in it for sure.
Yeah.
I like how we keep seeing the flashes of the kids and we never see the faces. I mean, I'm sure that's something that we've brought up before, but I like how it just kind of keeps weaving its way into the dream, and like it's a much more innocent thing than the subconscious with Mao, but regardless, it's still a good kind of tell visually.
Certainly, because remember, she doesn't show up in this level. At least from she doesn't show up in this level.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
That's the thing. It's kind of nice that we have like the little, like, it's kind of the precursor. Man, she's been awfully quiet for a while. We had the train kind of driving. It was presumably she was driving that train.
Oh God, I just would like to think of Marion Cotillard just like behind the wheel of that train, just like laughing maniacally, like, yeah. I will show you to forget about me.
Choo choo, mother.
Oh God.
So there's the four. There's the number again.
Is Marion Cotillard like the motherly figure in our like Ione Young, Gal Gadot trifecta?
No, we can't go. We've reached our allotment on that.
All right. Fine,
I already have Katrina. I already have Nisa Al Ghul in the middle there. All right, we have enough.
Okay, well screw Nisa Al Ghul. Come on. Let's retire Nisa Al Ghul for fucking Marion Cotillard.
No, I'm saying she's the middle child.
I feel like Marion Cotillard has much more clout than fucking Nisa Al Ghul.
Oh, hey, I've met her. She was nice, man.
I'm sure she's wonderful. I'm not saying that. Anyways, people.
Anyway, getting back on point, because no one's gonna know what we're talking about when we bring up the whole. Anyway.
Just a trifecta of adorable, like.
Yeah, anyway, so our running gag aside.
Oh man.
So basically, what we're getting at here is he's basically he's going to be retargeted. They're going to come up to the idea that we're going to retarget our focus onto. Browning is our guy. As in, Browning's the guy we're going to deflect. We're going to put all the doubt on Browning. We're going to make him distrust Browning, and that's going to be our in for really getting Fisher on the team and also getting into Fisher's mind.
That's really clever.
So we're kind of setting up the kick right now with Arthur. Basically, they're getting ready. They're blowing the Ruma up top, which of course is going to be like the other half of the number, the 528. Which of course, once they do that, you're going to have your kick built in. So we have the whole premise movie is we have like the dual kick. We have the kick and the fail-safe kick. Right now is the initial kick. Of course, when the van goes off the bridge and this thing blows up, that's their kick of like, okay, we're going to get out of Dodge, and the avalanche will probably take them down in the initial kick.
I mean, the whole thing is just like so intricately constructed, and I can see how it loses people if you aren't really paying attention to it. But that's the thing about Nolan is that, Nolan is a filmmaker that, from very get-go with Memento and everything, he demands your attention. The Prestige literally opens with the line, "Are you watching closely?" So, just the fact that all these different kicks and layers and everything are pulled off, like, I very vividly remember seeing this movie for the first time with my mom in theaters, and she was completely lost. Because, my mom is pretty much the definition of a casual moviegoer. Like, if she's lucky, she'll go to, like, 3 movies in the theater a year. But, with this, man, when I was watching it for the first time, I was just eating it up like candy, all the ideas and concepts. But, you really do have to kind of, it is mental gymnastics. It's not an easy movie to just kind of, like, turn on. It's not a turn your brain off kind of movie. It's very much like kind of like I use the candy bar for a brain analogy a lot, Dragon, but this movie is like an energy bar for the brain.
I do love just this really funny gag that just happened with Saito. He says, "Oh hey, it's you," or he mistakes.
Oh yeah,
because Saito
you've changed.
You gotta remember, Saito is really a tourist and all this. God bless him though; he's a good tourist though. He is trying, he is helping out, but still,
tourist. Let's say he's like a good representation of like an annoying tourist that really shouldn't be there.
What's the idea that again, like it's getting hard for him to track who's who because remember, like Tom Hardy's transforming the women and Peter Browning. He thinks, oh, he's back to Peter Browning. Where it's like Tom Hardy's like in the back. It's like, oh no, not me. It's just like, oh, sorry, I'm mistaken for this. I love that. It's this comedy of errors going on with those two. But again, they're becoming buddies.
I love how Browning is like very accepting. He's just like, oh well, I'm sure he's a very handsome fellow.
Oh yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that I was talking about with Browning earlier. Is that Browning doesn't get much, but he does have those memorable bits.
So this right now with Browning too. So this to me is such an ingenious idea. The idea is it depends on how you read it, but you could read it that essentially they've set up a doubt in Fisher's mind already, and in that moment the projection got reprogrammed essentially. That the projection is now playing into what his doubt is, and that because it's playing along with the new information that's been put in, that I'm working against you secretly. You know, I didn't trust you. Your father was right not to trust you. But then again, Cobb's like saying, "Don't believe him." So you can kind of see it both ways. Regardless, they're going to use him as an in. Okay, we're telling Fisher we're going into Browning's dreaming to see what he's really planning right now. And of course, it's not exactly what's happening at all. And this is where the thing gets a little confusing. It's the only time in the movie where if you really look at it on a rewatch, it's like I'm not 100% sure how this tracks. I'm not saying it doesn't make any sense. I'm just saying it's a little tricky. It's, again, the idea is that I think the way it's supposed to work is that Eames designed the next level. But when we get to the vault is all Fisher. Because Cobb just now said we're going into Fisher's mind, but by the same token, Eames is the one who wakes up later.
Yeah, I really don't know, Trey. I really don't have an easy answer for that.
You know, I mean, again, the only thing I can think of that makes sense again is that it's both of them. It's like basically Fisher has the inside of the place. He has Eames has the outside. That's the only logic I can really discern from it. It's the best I got. I'm sorry.
All right, so Dragon, with the Snow Fortress, I kind of get the sense that you and I are on the same page about visually it's not as distinct as the other two layers.
Well, I don't know about visually distinct. Let me put it this way: I feel Nolan's mainly feeling as though it's with the fortress. That's purely what that is. Nolan loving the Bond movies as he does. The opening sequence and the score and everything has a very Bondian elements in there, like silencers and all that sort of cool stuff. Nolan's favorite Bond movie is On Her Majesty's Secret Service, the one with George Lazenby, the one right after Connery, and that one opens with and features a snow fortress and a big ski chase. And that's pretty all the Bond audition.
And that's stuff the thing with the Snow Fortress is that it always, with the Bond stuff, it always did feel a little overindulgent to me. I'm not saying it's bad; it's very well shot and everything, but there's not a whole ton of dream logic involved in the Snow Fortress. I mean, you get the avalanche, but really, that's about it. There's no like gravity bending or anything, or any cool, distinct visual that happens with it. I don't know, like. As awesome as I feel like this movie is, and believe me, this movie is like I feel like it's kind of like a guarantee, like at least in the top 20 of my favorite films of the decade, if not top 10. But still, is high marks as I give it. That Snow Fortress, it is kind of the imperfection on the. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
So real quick, just want to point out. Speaking of the dream logic, here's what the second layer is possibly the best. Here we have the zero gravity.
And this is the thing that blew everyone's mind out of the theater. Is just like I was actually watching like old Chris Duckman and Jeremy John's reviews, and they both were just like, "Oh my god, guys! Joseph Gordon-Levitt is involved in a fight scene. I don't want to spoil what it is, but it's going to blow your mind."
Yes. So this fight scene. So what they're doing here, this room, as like with the restaurant set, but even better. This was inspired by 2001. We had the spinning room, and the way they did this is a 100-foot space. Where it's a 100-foot space that's been built, and it's on 8 gimbals. Essentially, it's on this giant gimbal, 8 rings. Basically, you turn the rings like they did in Dunkirk with basically a giant thing that you turn either manually, like with Dunkirk, or in this case, you turn like on a giant like electrical system.
Hold on, really quick. This is the this little bit with Yusuf right here is the funniest moment in the movie. It
is. Did you see
where
that?
Yusuf does this awesome like barrel roll landing, and he's just like laughing to himself. He's like, "Did you see that? Did you see that?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, they're all asleep." Duh.
That's a cute bit. No, seriously, it was really cool. Is this is something like I've seen, like if you remember Nightmare on Elm Street, like the way they shot the whole Johnny Depp going into the blood bed. That's a gimbal. It's a room on a gimbal where basically it's turned upside down so the blood can flow out. And those rooms are designed to spin to do shots like that. So again, it's kind of an old technique, and it's kind of like sometimes you have like Fred Astaire, like dancing on the ceiling or something like that. That's kind of where that idea comes from. They basically took that idea along with kind of a 2001 in terms of like let's see the whole space spin. But It's a very tricky thing, or Joseph Gordon-Levitt, because it's very disorienting when you do that stuff. You walk, and especially if you're walking from the ceiling to the floor, it's really difficult. And that's all Joseph Gordon-Levitt doing that, his own stunts on that scene. And that's 6 weeks, and he's getting awfully battered and bruised while he's doing that, man. It's not an easy feat, but it looks fantastic. And it gets even better later on when we do the zero gravity stuff.
Okay, so I think I have a theory for your explanation for the Eames dream thing. I think that they're just telling Fisher that it's his dream, and I think the only thing that Fisher is projecting into the dream is the safe.
But that Fisher's projecting the safe.
Yeah,
that's what I said, Tiki. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just so we're on the same page.
Yeah, Eames is doing the outside. He's doing the snow fortress.
Right, like Eames is basically like Eames has the facade, but I don't know. Even when I say it out loud, I'm not that confident about it.
Well, yeah. The point being, the fact is we don't know because they said they were going. They told the lie to Fisher that we're going into Peter Browning's mind. Where in reality, it's.
But I mean, with that in mind, how do they get the actual Inception if it's not Fisher? If it's not Fisher's dream.
Well, that's the tricky thing. They just need the point is they need him to project something, but again, they've gotten projections from him when they weren't going into his head already, so it kind of tracks. But the point being, I think it tracks enough, but it's a little fuzzy on the third act. Anyway, on the third level. Speaking of the third level, it's funny. When this thing airs, apparently when this thing airs in Japan on TV, they're worried about people being able to track it. So in the corner during these sequences on the TV, when it's broadcast on television, there's a little counter, like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. It's like a 1, 2, and 3 keeps popping up every time we edit. Yeah, apparently, yeah.
I'd actually like to watch the movie with that. No, seriously, that sounds like a useful, interesting feature. That should have been on the DVD or something.
Unfortunately, it's not. I shouldn't say unfortunately. Well, it's not. By the way, so speaking of the Snow Fortress, it's really cool about. Now, here's the cool thing about the Snow Fortress, though. It's shot in Calgary. So they shot this in Calgary, and it's an abandoned ski resort. Now, the really cool thing. So they built that actual Snow Fortress, but they had to build it in August before the snow hit. So they prayed for snow because there was not snowing up to a week beforehand.
Oh God!
And again, like no snow at all. As in, like if you had like a whole scene, it's supposed to be a ski resort. You're supposed to get snow. As in, you will be screwed if there is no snow and all this. So on the drive up, on the trip up there, when they flew up there and flew everything out there, say within that week, when they got there, thankfully snow and like the biggest snowfall in 30 years.
Oh, nice.
They completely lucked out. Like I don't know who Nolan
meant to be.
Yep. So this is what I'm talking about, all the skiing chase here with Eames and everything. This is all Nolan's audition for Bond. This is his love letter to his favorite Bond movie. And I got to admit, I think most of the action cuts when we cut to like more of the ski stuff, it's not the best out of the 3 intercuts. Personally, it's not the most engaging.
Well, I mean, of course not, because you've got Arthur with the zero gravity hallways, and then you've got the Yusuf with the car literally going off the side of the bridge.
Yeah, which, by the way, when it's going off the bridge, it is literally they drove a van. They drove the van off the bridge, and they use the high speed cameras and slow mode it. But the tricky part is, when it's about to go off the bridge here. It's all intercut, folks. Hear me if I'm taking a few liberties and here talking about it in advance. When the van goes off the bridge, everyone they have to act. They can't react to going off the bridge. They all have to stay unconscious when they're being driven off the bridge.
Right.
Also, of course, the paradox payoff, very awesome. Love when we give Arthur bits like that, where he's like a paradox. Just like shrugs it off too. So right now, this whole bridge thing here, where they have to act in place. So when Arthur is doing the zero gravity thing, when he's stringing everybody up and when he's just kind of flying down the hallway like this, it actually isn't zero gravity. The way they shoot it is sometimes it's a vertical set, sometimes it's like a set at like kind of a left or a right angle. But in the vertical set, what they'll do is they'll have Joseph Gordon-Levitt on like a tether, on like a wire of some variety, and basically he'll give the impression that he's floating, but he'll be held in place by a string. Basically, have to kind of swim in midair. That's kind of how they're doing that. And Presumably, I think they may have cheated maybe a shot or two when they have everybody being strung up, but essentially they too should be in zero. They too should also be kind of seemingly in zero gravities, and they're also suspended by wires and being spun like they are later on. I'm not exactly sure how they did that one, but it's probably the same effect that it with Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Uh-huh.
So right now, so in the first kick, his kick is happening. I love they were smart enough to have like the backup kick on the impact. So again, they have like kind of a built-in fail-safe, which is really smart for what they're doing. Of course, I think this is the thing. Fisher has the perfect line here. It says, "You couldn't have dreamt up a beach."
Exactly.
And of course, no one paid attention to this, and this is what ended up in Dunkirk with the mole. It says, "Well, you wanted a beach. I gave it to you."
Well, I mean, also, of course, on a more practical point of view, we have the beach is obviously going to be Limbo and the big symbol of the kids and everything. So
exactly. I mean, that's the other thing. The only knock I could possibly really lob against Inception is like, who would design the Snow Fortress?
Dragon, I'm so glad you and I we've never really talked about
I don't dislike
much,
it. It's cool, but I think we cut to it a little too much. It's like it's basically just
we're totally on the same page about this, Dragon.
It's just Nolan having fun in Bondland, and I'll give him that because he did such a great job with everything else. But in a movie that's pushing 2.5 hours, I think we could have like. Let me put it this way: the Prestige is a perfect runtime for him.
Yeah,
Prestige has it's essentially it's 2 hours and 6 minutes without credits, rounded out to 2 hours and 10 minutes. And of course, with the credits now these days being 8 minutes, let's just say that tack on 8 minutes. Could have cut out 10 minutes of the ski stuff.
I hear you.
Again, it's great, but again, it's just basically we're there because look at all the different environments we're going to. And I gotta give them that though. Each dream environment does have you have kind of like a raining environment, you have kind of an amber kind of a warm hotel environment spinning, and you have like giant kind of Bondian snow fortress, which looks cool. And again, it's playing with a large scale, but again, we're not doing we're not doing a lot of our dream stuff there. But again, importantly, this gets us to Limbo stuff. But again, Limbo is more of a set within itself. So that's what it is.
And you're right. Limbo is definitely like the main, it's the real final layer.
Yeah, Limbo's the real. Yeah.
So I mean, in that regard, I feel like it's kind of appropriate that the third layer is maybe the most, the least developed visually, just because the third layer is essentially kind of like a misdirect into what the real ending is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the only logic and here's the zero gravity fight too, where again on wires, but it just looks fantastic.
Oh my god, yeah.
So the only logic I can really kind of guess from the Snow Fortress is that it's kind of like maybe the deeper you go, the more ill-defined things get. In that, if you go really deep, it's like a Snow Fortress. It's like kind of the white of snow. It's just kind of like this blank canvas, and then of course we get to like the creation of things with the Limbo. Again, it's not a great explanation, I'm aware, but it's just it's like if there's something, if there's anything outside of just being. Though.
I mean, I think that tracks well enough.
Outside of it being just cool looking, it's just pretty much. Practical, not in the least. Cool, you betcha. Of course, it's Lee Smith having an editing field day here, and it's just like,
oh my god,
Lee Smith makes us. Oh yeah, one of Lee Smith's best edits here. I mean, this and The Prestige are probably some of Lee Smith's best editing work. Well, never mind, Dunkirk kind of takes it.
And I just think the way that they edit together, like all the shots of the car falling, is just masterful suspense.
Oh yeah, because again, we know for a fact when it hits that water, they're done for. Well, basically, mission over, and whether you like it or not. Of course, now she's Ariande. She's raising up this whole the implications of you're shooting projections. Is this okay? Right. You'll notice too. Ellen Page here. She has her hair done up in a bun, and the reason for that is for this sequence right now, because again, they don't want her hair flowing during when she's suspended on wires and everything. That's why she's wearing a bun during the second level of the dream.
Oh God!
Practical shooting things. It would have been crazy continuity wise.
Yeah, I could see it.
That's what I'm talking about. I think we've gotten enough skiing here. Basically,
I totally hear you. And another thing that bothers me is that all all the assassins are just kind of like, they're basically like video game villains. You know what I
Literally.
mean? They're just kind of like respawned enemies.
Again, they're literally Bond henchmen. That's the idea. They're
Yeah.
Bond henchmen.
Yeah, it's like we're playing like GoldenEye HD, you know. God.
I love that they're
this
all.
movie isn't perfect. It's definitely not perfect.
I love that with Fisher though. I love Fisher's kind of like the kid they're babysitting here. Like they all have to get Fisher from point A to point B. He's the package, and he's the MacGuffin. We have to basically he has to basically succeed in the mission. It's like a game like you can do it. You can do it, Robert. You can do it. In that he has to get to the safe essentially to kind of uncover the secret, and they would get him from point A to point B, which is why he's like it's they put the sick member of the group with him, put Sato with him.
In video game terminology, it would be an escort mission.
There you go. He's kind of the escort in all this. But then, of course, now importantly, I love the detail that Cobb had. Basically, Cobb been getting Ariadne to the point where she could tell him like where the vantage point is, basically they can watch him and how to get Fisher in from point A to point B with this ventilation system. And telling him he now knows, and that this will get Maul there. And Maul would have had no idea if he didn't panic and ask her where it is.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, and he just should have shot her right now. He should have shot her.
Oh yeah.
Yep. In retrospect, she really should have had the gun, but bear in mind, she probably is not very proficient with a gun, Ariadne.
All right, and boom, there's our third act conflict right there.
Yes, the other big hitch in the plan.
If you will, Dragon, if you will, the matchstick moment.
Yes, absolutely. That is absolutely a matchstick moment, yes.
It's like, okay, the guy who is supposed to be on the mission, the guy who's supposed to be we're incepting, he's dead. He's shot. Yep. He's going bye-bye.
He is not a live person.
Yes, in other words.
Sato's not doing too good either right now.
No, and again, Sato is the other linchpin to this whole thing, so, true. Not great. Out of all the people to die, not these two.
But again,
these two are very inconvenient.
I love now that Eames is like, oh man, I really want to see this through here. Fisher can't die now.
Oh God.
I want to see what's in that. I want to see what's in that safe.
Yeah.
This right here is just like the, oh man, that's. Well, it's not me. It doesn't get back to. I love that he's also on Cobb's side here. Well, I mean, I just really want to see what was in there, but I mean, I feel a little bad, a little worse for you right now. You bet everything on this mission. We're just going to get timed out of here and be fine.
Uh-huh.
But again, Ariadne here with the save. Yeah, we will have enough again with the whole dream semantics of the time here. Well, yeah, we would have time to find them down there.
Right.
They call this place a hospital, but does it really scream hospital to you?
What, the Snow Fortress? Really?
Yeah, that means that's the actual name. I know it's the actual name for it because the idea is like Fisher is
no,
like
it does
Maurice
not scream
Fisher.
Hospital to me at all. It screams like some sort of like safe house or something.
That's what I'm saying. It's like I see like little some like bedpans and stuff around.
Uh-huh.
It's like behind her right now. That's a close thing to a hospital you really get. I mean, it's not really hospital. Doesn't scream hospital.
I mean, honestly, if visually it felt more like a hospital, then I could see it maybe sticking out more. Because, hospitals do have their own connotations when it comes to dreams, of course.
Sure.
And I feel like you could play that up with Fisher and everything with the dying father. So,
well, that's the idea. It's supposed to be a hospital. It's the whole Snow Fortress of all. But again, if you want to look at it as the inside,
the Snow Fortress is fucking like, I don't know. There's just something about the Snow Fortress that just doesn't feel like it belongs in this movie. Right?
But again, operating on our logic, the inside is Fisher, which makes sense of it being a hospital. Outside, Snow Fortress, if you want to look at it that way. So again, but it's also like, what was Eames? As much as I love Eames, what were you thinking, buddy?
You know what Eames was thinking, Dragon? I feel like Eames is like probably an even bigger James Bond fan than Nolan is.
Yes. That's gotta be it. Yeah, he wants to do it in style. All
Chicken,
right, so
not stud, darling.
it's really cool. So to see the collapsing structures around us here, that's in the influence on Limbo here is kind of a glacier. They looked at kind of glaciers and how over time, again, time being a big operative factor, of course, big thing in Nolan's interest here. Let's see, like over time, these structures, it's kind of a mix of glaciers meet sandcastles. That's kind of the idea there.
Uh-huh.
Kind of like a tide effect on a sandcastle, but also like kind of the time thing of a glacier. Boy, man, that's some good, excellent scale on all this too. By the way, again, it's not. This is what it's kind of hard to believe this isn't IMAX at times, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Basically, when you hear it sounds like IMAX too, with like the loudness of the explosions and everything, especially if you watch this on Blu-ray. But what's kind of funny though is so they shot it as close to IMAX as you're going to get with 65 millimeter, I believe. So basically, most of it's 35 millimeter, but I would assume during the action sequences, during the big spectacles, that's when you get the 65. When you have like the bigger scope scenes.
Uh-huh.
So, by the way, when we get more Limbo here, when we get to Limbo, it's actually so most of it is a practical location. Obviously, all the towering things in the background, the buildings that are literally melting into the melting into the ocean, not so much practical. But when they're walking kind of in the town here, basically from the ground perspective, that's all real. That's Morocco, and they're scouting Morocco for the Mombasa stuff. They came across this housing estates area. Basically, it's a bunch of these really eerily placed buildings, really close to each other, like this, where they're walking right now. All of this, except the stuff near the shore, it's all real.
Uh-huh. That's incredible.
Oh yeah, of course. I love the kids here being in Cobb knows like the kids are going to lead him to mall.
That's what I'm saying. The kids just kind of like they're in a way the kids are almost like the totem of the movie in terms of like and that's another thing that kind of like leads to the ending maybe being a little ambiguous is it feels like every time Dom sees the kids, he kind of knows that he's dreaming. I don't know.
Well, again, I kind of laid this out a little bit with the Prestige, but again, I want to sound like all like reading too deeply into it. But again, given the fact the whole filmmaking parallel with the characters, which was an intentional thing, where all these characters again they're like kind of a job during making of a movie within the making of a heist. Again, if Nolan is Cobb, you do notice again that Nolan in real life does have two children, I believe, a boy and a girl. And again, like kind of a father wanting to reunite with his kids, but he's kind of torn away by work, and also again maybe some maybe a little bit of guilt associated with that. Again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong in the House of Nolan. I have no inkling of this, but again, like with Prestige, it's the fears of what might happen. It's the fears of being taken away from taken away from things.
Uh-huh.
Also in kind of service of this again, kind of like the draw of like this big visual craft of yours, the whole thing like the building and the constructing of dreams and messing around with all this sort of stuff. But again, the catharsis being what's kind of in the DNA of it deep down.
Yeah. Right.
Of course, Arthur here preparing the kick with the elevator right now. Basically, the detonation. Basically, going to kind of crash him to the. I'm trying to remember. I think basically going to crash the elevator down. But here's the thing: they shoot it. Like they do the zero gravity thing, so it looks like it's going up. It
does look like it's going up. You're right. Is this haunted room actually stretching, or is it just your imagination?
That's the thing. I'm pretty sure it's logically would have to fall, but then again, we're in a dream, so for all I know, it could be going up. I don't know.
It's falling up, dragging its Shelf Silversteining it.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So, of course, right now this is where Cobb essentially explains after a few kind of snowy cuts here. Again, a little kind of takeaway, unfortunately. Cobb's explaining the whole like he's the one who incepted the idea to her. He's the one who he specifically he created the inception to bring her out of it. That's what he was a little fuzzy on earlier on with that Ariande.
Uh-huh.
So also, again, I love how re-exploring, like, I love this set, too, I always love how eerie and how shadowy this like, walk-up was, like, the foyer getting into the dining room here. I always love that kind of walk-up thing. And also, it's really great in the dialogue. He mentions, like, when he's describing Inception, the idea of, like, basically an idea burrowing into the brain and kind of cementing itself as an original idea. He compares it to a parasite. And I love how this is kind of exactly what he said to Sato at the start of the movie. We thought it was like, imagine like a parasite while he was eating the noodles and everything. It sounded disgusting. No. God. So I love that it's kind of come full circle here. And basically, here's the really trippy thing of what's happening in this scene is that Maul is Maul essentially she's trying to incept him in this moment. She's trying to convince him that his reality is not real. She's just trying to. She's the projection, trying to say, your reality. It's my reality is the actual one. You can see your kids; they're right here. Everything you want is right here. And this is what I'm talking about. She could have made an excellent Talia al Ghul if given time. She really could have.
Yeah, sure.
So this is the true again. Talia al Ghul was always like the ultimate temptation story, and then she could have she's offering him everything he ever wanted, but it's. I gotta tell you, Sato, he's really giving it his all there. I mean, I love he's lobbing grenades and everything in the moment. He's there to the dying breath.
Going down in a blaze of glory for sure.
Absolutely. This is the tragedy of it all here. It's it's the fact that this poor deluded woman, she just couldn't have seen that, she thought her real children were not real, and now she thinks these false children are the actual ones. It's just sad.
Just again, that's just horrific. It's horrific to think about.
Oh yeah,
it's basically like that happening.
It's basically the idea that Cobb has to deal with his character flaw to earn the genuine reunion with his children. That's kind of the genesis of the whole. Basically, he's facing all these next level mind games that his deep subconscious is convincing him of right now.
Oh yeah.
What if it is real? Only way it gets trippier is she brings up the whole that was my totem. You never knew. But again, this is kind of the emotion of it all. The emotion of it all here, saying the guilt. That's how I know it's not real because I feel the guilt.
Oh, Dragon! By the way, I should note that my folks actually went to bed early, so that's why I'm not very talkative. I'm just trying to keep it down on their part. I'm sorry about that.
Yep.
They usually go to bed at 11 my time, but now they are already in bed for some reason. So I'm sorry about that. There's not much I can do about that as we get into the end game of this movie. I'm trying to keep the conversation here, but I can't really talk all that much. I apologize.
This is where we get the shell-shocking kind of revelation here, and then it's oh god, it's so. This is poor. This is just so sad right here. Sorry, folks. It really is just really kind of twisted. So I'm just kind of getting swept up. It's oh god, this just literally just kind of locking your totem away, just completely giving it up there.
And again, I know we've repeated this, but it bears repeating here. It was her totem, not his. Hers, not his. Hers.
Of course, as we're seeing visually here, he went out of his way to find that totem.
I
love the idea too. Literally, to stroll down memory. I love how it's literally a stroll down memory lane when you get to the limbo here, where it's literally all the houses from their
limbo.
past.
That part of it is, to me, the most accurate to what I experience with lucid dreaming is kind of the literal strolling down memory lanes. Because Dragon, essentially, I mean, this is going to sound dumb, but essentially, when I am lucid dreaming, my main goal is to kind of recapture that feeling of youth. Recapture a happier time in my life. Not to say my life is unhappy right now, but you know what I mean, kind of nostalgia, as Night Owl puts it, that's what we're all craving is nostalgia. So with that in mind, with my lucid dreaming scapes, it all does kind of come down to these locations that have meaning to me from my life kind of crammed into each other. So in that regard, like I said, this whole bit of limbo is definitely the bit that I can kind of relate to the most out of anything in this movie on a conceptual level.
Yeah. Look at all the subtle stuff that Cotillard's doing in this scene, where you can just see the kind of the almost postpartum dream depression she's going through right now.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do you think it's a flaw that we see this this backstory explained essentially at least 3 different times in the movie in different perspectives and revealing different points of it?
Well, let's see. I mean, it is kind of broken down into three places because it's said, then it's shown, and then we reveal, okay, he specifically, did the Inception. Now, in all fairness, because we know it on the rewatch, it's a little more difficult to tell. But on the initial watch, I would say that basically, I'm kind of having trouble reconciling if it's Nolan basically trying to cover his bases with the third one, the one that we just saw unfold, the one where it's literally spelled out, not in a negative way, just kind of the emotions really kind of hit there. That okay, so he did this, Cobb did this. Where you could probably infer in the second one, okay, Cobb probably did this. He's basically knowing what we know about Inception, Cobb probably did this, and it didn't take. And because we know she couldn't accept reality and she did this, therefore, I mean, how would she get to that point? Because we established in that earlier scene she didn't want to go, therefore, it's pretty safe to assume. But then again, I don't know, it's like one I chalk up to, at the time, I think it played better I think in the age we're at now, where we really look at things under a fine tooth comb, maybe it could have been cut at two. Maybe. Then again, looking at stuff like the ski chase and everything, maybe certain edits could have been made. But all I know is we need the emotion of this scene. But if there's only some way we could have maybe melded the second, the third together and kept the dialogue of the first, I don't know. Maybe it plays, but it's also like the unfortunate thing with the limbo stuff is as great as the limbo stuff is, it also it's like with the matchstick.
It almost kind of feels like we're going over the same territory, just getting a slightly different reveal out of it.
But it's like there's some filmmakers speak of like a sweet spot in your time. Is that you want to cut off like the hour 45 mark or vice versa or whatnot. The point being, there's a certain point in the movie where you want to have what you need said done, or the point where everybody wants to go home. You're going to be overstaying your welcome. And I'm not saying no one's overstaying his welcome, but I'm saying like people. Long watch, it's like, okay, I'm invested here. I want to see what's going on. And then it's like, oh man, then they're throwing us kind of a whole nother act of the movie here with limbo. And the limbo stuff's interesting, but again, I blame some of the Snow Fortress stuff before I blame this. I don't know.
No, I hear you.
But again, DiCaprio's performance here is great. Here, basically, he's basically reconciled that okay, she's a projection, and I'm here not for her, but I'm here for Sato. I got to save Sato to essentially really get what I want here, and this is all on me. You guys are safe. You guys have fulfilled the mission, so you go. You get Fisher there. You get all that thing here. You guys will get your money. Well, also, I guess some burden falls on him. He also has to save, Sato to also get them their money. The point being, he's there. He's taking responsibility for things. He screwed up a lot during this mission. He's taking the responsibility, but also conquering. Again, he's going through his catharsis right now, essentially. Again, as Fisher will momentarily.
Uh-huh.
Again, he's realizing you're a shade of my real wife. You were the best I could do in a pinch here, and that's why she's like, that's why she's so negative and stabby all the time.
Stabby.
She's very stabby.
So Ariadne is probably like the most proactive person in the whole thing. Like she's the best at improvising, as we clearly see in this moment, even better than Cobb is.
Oh yeah. Nice. That's getting closer, man. It's getting closer.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's just like every time we cut, it's just like, oh god, it's gonna happen any minute now.
Oh boy, again, all the kicks are leaning. Oh, here's a money shot right here. I love it when this vault opens, man. This is basically, I would call this is Nolan's version of a CG environment. Think about it. They have like all these lines. It looks like coding, like digital coding on the walls and everything. This environment is like digital. Nolan doing digital.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It's like an early digital effect, but kind of like the Tron era of visual effects done.
So it's like a practical digital effect. If you will.
It's like a few more lines. You had the triangles going on the wall.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. It's like it's a few more lines. It's like what? That's what I'm saying. It looks fantastic. So again, what's really great here, now it's ingenious, and again, it kind of throws a wrench at things if you overthink it, but the idea is that either Fisher has been guided along the whole path here of recontextualizing the whole disappointed last words of his father here, or Eames has reconstructed it to be this moment with his father. The point being, Eames is responsible for it.
I honestly think I'm getting it a little more now, where it's like it's Eames' dream. Eames is literally playing the role of the father here. And, we don't necessarily have to see like again, I don't get the one thing I think that's unclear, Dragon, is how Fisher has to open the vault. I think that's the one thing that I'm still having a hard time trying to figure out. Because usually the vault is associated with the person who's dreaming, you know?
Well, I mean, look, at the end of the day here, I think I'm going to have to land on, like, because Eames is watching this unfold. Now, I'm going to have to assume that, again, Eames just guided him to this point, as in this is Fisher basically having been guided by Eames's actions, throughout the movie here, and the whole, again, he saw the pinwheel photo, so it's questionable, like, did he create the pinwheel, or was this Fisher creating the pinwheel because his relationship with his father was made better through the course of the adventure? That's the point being. Eames is responsible. It's a question of how literally responsible he is. So, importantly, though, what I really love about it is I love how Eames gets to watch his handiwork. He gets to see how it all ended. He gets to see Inception actually take place before his eyes. And I love that whole thing. I love that Eames gets rewarded at the end of things here. It's kind of nice. Again, he gets to see the actual catharsis. Or again, Nolan, the filmmaker, in a sense, gets to see the snobby audience member who's seen it all. Or in this case, the rich boy who's seen it all. Gets to see him like, oh, man, I got that little, got that little guy. I got him. Yeah. Oh yeah, so right now what's happening? So the whole fortress going down like this. So this was done practically, but here's what happened. So they built they built the big hospital set, the big hospital fortress set in the location in Calgary. Now they had dynamite and everything built into this, things like plywood and stuff, just made to look like it was stone. And they blew it up. Unfortunately, the effect didn't work entirely. So what happens is when it blows, the front part didn't go. The back part did, and it kind of fell the wrong way. So in the wide shot, it begins to blow up the actual big space. Now, what they had to do is they had to build a 45-foot model to blow that up, to basically mix the two shots together to make it look like the whole place is going down. Yeah. It's Nolan in a bind for you, man. He does it with models. You gotta respect that, man. When in doubt, use a model. That's a good filmmaker, man. I love when we use models.
Oh man,
Rex Lynn would love that technique, I'm sure. Kevin Walkdale. We can have the last moments here with with the kind of the dying mall, and again, I love this whole grow old together notion. This is really. Again, this is where now this is the catharsis for Cobb right now here, where he's just just to get to see they actually did grow old together. Yeah, he did live a life, and that's the trippy thing about Cobb when you realize, and when we link up to the to him finding Sato again, is that man, Cobb, he's a young man who's lived 50 years longer than.
Oh yeah, no, that is like definitely there's a lot of implication there with Cobb's character, and I'm not convinced that 50 years he spent in limbo was the only time he spent in limbo either. Sure. I mean, it's like Cobb in a lot of ways kind of is almost like a character out of time. And of course, the ambiguity of at the end, oh, is it a dream? Is it not a dream? Is the top going to stop spinning? That all ties into the man outside of time element of Cobb's character.
Certainly. Of course, here, I love the little detail, by the way, that our guys, they're using the scuba rebreathers and everything. Basically, they're staying down there to make sure this is where the idea has to take. This is where Fisher has to have a private moment with Browning here. And I also, again, I love that Eames also, again, gets another moment to see that the Inception took place here, because that's him right now he's talking to. I love that. I love that again. You get to see it. You get to see the success of the mission, but also again, like he's kind of a part of it too. He's really invested in this little Fisher excursion.
God.
Nice.
I think if we take away anything from this whole podcast, it's Eames' like emotional investment in this family drama. It's like the unsung kind of like amusing story arc of the whole thing.
This is a great shot here. We pan and we just kind of go from we go Tom Berenger to
Tom Hardy. Yeah,
one Tom to the other.
Man,
one Tom to the other. Another what? Oh man, where's Dunkirk when you need it for Tommy? Where's Tommy when you need it?
Oh God.
Again, by the way, man, I forgot to mention this earlier. What was really cool when it was raining in LA, they shot all the rain stuff in LA. When they shot that, it was broad daylight, and they had to manufacture that rain. They couldn't walk out in the rain. But when they did that, again, so the sun is shining as it would
So
in
they
LA.
brought in like the classic like Universal Studios like rain machines.
Yeah, they had like like water cannons and rain machines, and what
I mean,
they did.
those rain machines aren't exclusive to Universal Studios. It's just that's how everyone knows about them is through the Universal Tram Tour. I digress.
What I'm getting at is what they did is they actually used these giant. They didn't do like a digital thing. They made it overcast digital. What they did is they had these giant these giant screens to block out the sun. So that's it's crazy. So here we go. Here's
like
the old man.
Like that they were able to even do that.
I know. So here's the old man link up here. Where again, it's the trippy idea. Both of these men have this. This is where Sato and Cobb truly the whole friendship that they developed. They had like this shared life experience of like now they both have aged like 50 years in their dreams practically. Cobb already, and now Saito has already now with kind of he's physically been aged here, and it's just again basically Cobb is just now realizing I could have ended up like said if no one had come to get me if I basically have not kind of chosen to reject the dream reality of Maul and everything. If I just kind of left, if I lived in my guilt, if I lived without moving on, I could end up like my friend has just now.
Mm-hmm.
In the metaphorical sense, where he's now there in the literal sense. So we can be young men together.
Yeah, it's just such a good link up to the start of the movie, and Nolan is always really good about stuff like that. But this is arguably maybe his best framing device with, how the dreams kind of come together to lead to this moment.
Yep. I love how not a word is uttered between these guys, but they have like just with the glances and an exchange of like.
Absolutely. It's really, really solid acting all the way
these
around.
Guys probably aren't going to see each other again. I mean, again, unless you get this mythical sequel with everybody else but Cobb.
Well, I mean, even then, if we get the mythical sequel, like I said, my theory with that is that it might be like a new crew with maybe like let's say Sato and Eames as returning players,
Exactly, yeah. Even though, I mean, I honestly, it'd probably be Arthur and Sato if I'm a betting man. I'd love to see Eames, but I don't know.
Well, why wouldn't it be Eames? Tom Hardy is a big name.
Well, no, it's not that. It's the fact of like Eames is like he's just like not. I don't think everybody would know Eames, and it's quite like Eames is like a fortress, kind of like a little bit more of an underground. I don't know. I'd like to see him. I'm trying.
Okay, but I don't know. I'm just saying that Saito and Eames have the best dynamic.
I do. I love this. I want Hardy. I'm just questioning the logistics of like at point being Saito
and Eames going on a road trip in their dreams that they don't realize is a dream.
God, anyway, my point is, I love to have like a little victory. I love to have a little victory party while they were like a silent victory party on the plane. Also, one of your guys is in this scene right here. You have Michael Gaston, the Dean from The Leftovers. The guy, the hunter guy, the guy killed.
Oh yeah, for sure.
There you go.
I affectionately call him the big bald bastard.
Oh sure, whatever gets you off there. Okay.
It's literally what Kevin calls him in the show.
Yeah, I know. I'm kidding.
He describes him as big bald bastard.
Yeah, he is.
BBA for short.
And this is what I'm talking about. This is like the last glances, and I love Fisher. He gives a glance to Fisher, and Fisher's like, "Who is? I kind of know that.
Like guy. I kind of placed that face, but not really.
Huh. He was the guy on the plane, but I feel like I know him deeper than that."
Yeah, right.
Yep. Of course, here again, like this is Christopher Nolan. He loves. I'd love if this became like a new stamp for Nolan going forward to just the reunions of Michael Caine. Just seems like
just every Nolan movie is going to end with a Michael. What if? I
know Dunkirk didn't, because Caine got killed.
I'm just
off
saying, like Dunkirk. Like, what if the circumstances went differently in Dunkirk, and it just ended with Tom Hardy reuniting with Michael Caine on the beach after a successful mission?
God. Okay, this is the big talked up scene. This is the one I think we've kind of talked up enough.
Oh my God! I just realized, like, no, not necessarily. Like Interstellar doesn't really end with reuniting with Michael Caine, but it does end with it does end with a reunion, though.
He does. So Nolan's a softie for the reunions.
Okay, Dragon, question. Is it stop spinning? Is it not spinning? Does it stop spinning? Is it gonna fall or is it not gonna fall?
Right, well, okay. First of all, again, the important takeaway is that he's not looking anymore obsessively, which is something that might not even work because it's not even his totems. That's the big takeaway. Is that he's not even looking anymore. He's not obsessed with it because he's living.
I literally think there is no answer to this question, and that's just how I like it.
So that's the important thing. There is the fact that he's no longer obsessed with guilt. He's moved on. He's accepting the reality with his children as the actual reality. And that's good enough for him. And again, it's left ambiguous it's for us that it's kind of like the guy earlier said, like, who are you to decide what is reality? It's the idea that we all kind of choose our own realities, and the fact of it's spinning. Does it stop spinning? I mean, look, if I'm a betting man, I'd say yeah, I think it stops spinning, but that's just me. That's just me. I think it just topples over for simplicity of things. Plus, I kind of go by the wedding ring thing again. I can't verify it. I'm just saying, just for simplicity's sake, I'd say he's still not wearing the wedding ring, which implies he's probably reality. I don't know.
All right, fair enough.
I do love the fact that I kind of caught this detail I never caught before. His son, the kids are talking about again when they're building all their sandcastles, and he says, they're like little architects in the making. I love that they build a house on a cliff.
Oh, yeah. You're right. I'm glad you pointed that out because I actually just caught that on my most recent rewatch as well. The house on the cliff thing. Yeah.
Nice.
And that's, I like that because that's like one of the last things you hear in the movie, and you're not focused on that line. You're focused on the top,
Yep. And again, some people have said, well, again, maybe that's like a reference to literally one of the dream things that we saw where you have like a house on a cliff with like, the snow fortress or, something.
Right.
But again, the point being, it's a nice little reunion. All right, final thoughts on your end. What do you got?
Well, final thoughts. Like I said, Dragon, I feel like the beauty of this movie is the ambiguity of it. I literally don't think there is an answer to the does the top stop spinning or not question. I think it's literally designed to be an open-ended question that you can look at a million different ways, and in that way, it's just kind of like an endlessly fascinating movie in that regard. I do absolutely think at this point in time it is Nolan's magnus opus. It's just conceptually just a mind-blowing movie that'll just leave you with these concepts and ideas that just really stick with you. But on top of that, it's also an incredibly solid action movie with, a really likable band of characters, and you get to know the characters on a human level more than a lot of Nolan films. It's got a really compelling, chilling villain in Mao. Dragon, we're pretty much on the same page about maybe the weak points of the movie are kind of like the snow fortress and maybe over explaining the backstory with Mal just a tad too much. But I mean, other than that, it's I will gladly forgive the snow fortress being a little repetitive for the rest of this film. I mean, it's a minor little blemish on a otherwise perfect. I would say this movie is as good as the John Wick movies and the Avengers movies and everything are this decade. I would say this movie might be the perfect action movie of the 2010s. I mean, I really do think at the heart of it, Dragon, it is an action movie. I think Nolan does dabble in psychological thrillers and everything like that, but I mean, at the heart of it, this movie is filled with chases and heists and gunplay and stuff like that. It really, when you break it down, it is I would categorize it mostly as an action movie, but man, is it a high concept action movie with a lot to say. So yeah, I pretty much love it.
Yep. Yet again, I think it's Nolan challenging, kind of challenging the audience, like a great cinematic teacher, one could say. And you guys think you see it all? Let me teach you a little something here. And again, kind of enriching the audience, just kind of taking them on an adventure. I think he literally put us in Fisher's shoes on a journey for catharsis. Even as Nolan continues to push the medium with with stuff like Dunkirk. I love
one more in there.
love how it really Inception changed the game. It did. Again, we're continuing to change the game with other films that he's doing currently, and probably going to keep on doing. But Inception truly did change the game in a big way. I mean, we use Inception as a verb practically. We use
Oh yeah,
Inception.
oh yeah.
Inception really came into vogue after this movie, like what the term was and all that sort of stuff. So again, it's just there's something powerful about this. Something you can't take away. So it's an excellent movie. It's fantastic. One of the all time heist movies done in such an unconventional but very thrilling and very impactful way. It's really fantastic. I got to tell you, on the rewatch is looking at exactly how he how he really kind of thought things through, and how he really, again, like particularly how you're going to use the heist format as a way of like telling a story in a different way, which of course we get to experimental films later on, like with Dunkirk, how he's literally going to, like how can I strip away things and kind of still tell a compelling story? He's stripping away the average trappings that we have seen and telling something completely new in a way we haven't seen it before. And that's kind of the mark of Nolan as a whole, and as a filmmaker, and as an auteur, if you want to give it that fancy term. That's what it is. And God love him. God bless Christopher Nolan.
All right. Well, folks, we've come to the end of our story. Or is it only the beginning? Don't forget to check your watch before we make our disappearing act. We'll be back before the top tumbles on the next season of Nolan-Vember. Womp! Womp!
You'll have to dream
a little bigger, darling.
Have to dream a little bigger.